Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Tommy Swagnetz, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bosnail, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
And they just keep saying no, that's not true. So I think that this what's said in this website pretty much chronicles their death.
Okay. You're going to talk us through it?
Yeah, well, I guess yeah, I may as well. So at the beginning it says surveyors and maritime businesses deal with measurements involving the Earth's curvature. So they're talking about practical use. So using formulas and surveying instruments, they can determine the part of a distant object which gets obscured by this curvature. This allows them to come up with a good estimate of the total height of an object that's partially hidden by the horizon. In such a case, this curvature calculator comes in handy for quick calculations. And they have a little calculator there. So one of the things that ballers say is that, well, this is useless over water. But right here, one of the examples they give is imagine yourself looking far at an open sea where you see no land. So why would they use an example looking out to the sea if observations over water render the formula useless?
Just double speak. It's double speak.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now it's saying as it draws closer, you discover that it's ship, and the first you discover that it's a ship, and the first thing you would notice is its sail. The closer it gets, the more shape of the ship becomes distinct. Before you can make such a sighting, you can ask yourself the questions: where was the ship before it made its gradual appearance? Was it concealed by the horizon? So there's that. And then they give you how to calculate the curvature of the Earth. The degree of obstruction of a distant object caused by the curvature of the Earth is dependent on several factors. So they tell you these factors: the object's distance, the observer's height, the object's height, and the magnitude of atmospheric refraction. So I'm going to go to the part where they detail what they mean when they're talking about atmospheric refraction, because globe earthers seem to be under certain, they don't understand their model, you know, Akumu, right? So where's this part? Okay, not accounting for atmospheric refraction is another very common mistake. Now there's a little bit of butt slapping here, right? To the flat earthers. So while they're butt slapping us, they're going to tell us exactly what they mean when they're talking about atmospheric refraction. Not accounting for atmospheric refraction is another very common mistake. Atmospheric refraction refers to the deviation of light from a straight line as it passes through the atmosphere due to the variation in air density as a function of height. In simpler terms, the atmospheric refraction usually bends light to follow the Earth's curvature to a specific point. This causes an object to appear higher above the horizon than it actually is. It's also important to note that the atmospheric refraction is never a constant, as it would depend on weather conditions and how much refraction may vary. So, all that being said, they still tell you how to calculate the distance to the horizon given all of these factors. And it's the
Yeah,
same formula we use with no variations whatsoever.
of
It's
course.
ridiculous.
It's that standard globe rhetoric. You've got to remember that the rebuttal to the black swan highlights the paradox that they have within their globe model, which is to say that they're claiming they can measure and give you the geometric layout of something that requires a physical geometry to be part of it. And that would be the horizon Earth curve, right? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about physical geometry. Well, when they're talking about standard refraction, they're talking about bending the light at a standard rate based on Earth's radius. Now, they said based on Earth's atmospheric rate around the Earth's curving surface or something like that. I can't paraphrase it perfectly or verbatim, but ultimately what they're saying is we beg the question of sphere-shaped air. And light's going to roughly bend through that sphere-shaped air, I assume. It's like, okay, there was a discussion on Bev Try Thinking with, I think it was George Netanyuk, and exactly this comes up. It's like, well, number one, where you're going to get a straight line from? That was the conclusion of their debate, which was very amusing because they don't have one on a sphere. And according to them, you can only get what seems to be horizontal if you take a plumb line and then you put a spirit level, like a bubble level on top of that, and you go, well, it's only technically straight at that one point. It's like, well, a straight line is between 2 points, a horizontal line, but they've only got one. So they say, oh yeah, we can have horizontal at 1 point. It's like, okay. Nevertheless, they've still got sphere-shaped air and a curved ground at all times, all ways. So where they're getting the R-value based refraction calculation from? Well, from the geometric horizon that's visible on no Atmo day. Hey, Neil.
What's up, Neil?
Neil. Can you hear us, Neil?
We're talking to you through the ether voice.
Come to my voice in the further.
So yeah, all of their rhetoric that predates the Black Swan is an indictment on their claims today. That's all.
Right on. Can you hear us, 10th? How's things?
Hello, 10th.
The lights are on, but no one's home. You'll have to drop out and rejoin 10th. I don't know if you're aware, but we can't hear anything coming out of your little. There we go.
Check
There
one,
you
two.
go.
There we go.
Hey, Neil. I mean, 10th. You missed my summary of the the pre-Black Swan arguments that the Globers used to pose.
I caught the end of it as I came on, and my mic was on off position. So I said, "So what predates the Black Swan?" And then Nathan goes, "We can't hear you." Can you summarize again?
Yeah, so I was just reading out the article that I posted, or the reading out, yeah, well, the article that I posted. And so they're detailing, while you know, chastising us flat earthers, right? They're basically saying, well, here's how you get the distance to the horizon, and when you add atmospheric refraction, this is why basically you can see more of an object below that's below the horizon, above the horizon, as we've been saying they used to say, but they deny that they've ever said. There was something else, but I can't remember. Oh, them denying that they do any of these things over water, but the example is of a boat over water. So
Yeah. Well, that's perfect that you caught on that, because that's the point I've been trying to make when I say I want them to say these things, because we just go to their own material to show how they are in the paradox, because they say it, but at the same time they say the other things. For example, with the black swan, we say, well, you're going to need R for that, well, which is reasonable. I mean, if you're going to say the Earth is curving and you're going to say the radius is 3959, then there's a limitation as to how that works at a 1 foot observer height. Okay, so you're going to need R for that, but you ain't got it. But in the same sense, with the sextant, you're going to need a 90 for that, because they're in their own books are saying that it's an angle measuring device and it's the GP of the stars directly overhead. So there's the plumb line of the star to that point on the Earth at that very time. Okay, and then from that to you is a GP. So there's your 90, and then you're somewhere trying to figure out what the angle is from your viewer's position. So there's enough evidence in their own books, but they also have those paradoxical statements in their own books. See, they want to cite geometry, but they don't want to deal with the constraints of geometry.
Their citations are typically laden with doublespeak as well. So I dug out or attempted to find a quick citation for the nonsense rhetoric being spewed by George Netanyahu about having having no parallel lines for plumb lines and having a horizontal establishable at a single point. Like, this is all complete nonsense. But there we go. You don't have to dig very far to find where they reference this stuff from. So I dug it out and we're like, here you go, here's a quote that says pretty much that, doublespeak about being on a curved surface. You know, you're like, hold on, you're describing something being straight and flat, but simultaneously in the description it's got the words curved line. You're like, this makes no sense. But this is what you find if you only have to do a surface level of digging on Google, and you'll find it referenced that way to Earth's gravitational centre and all this kind of nonsense. But there we go. Like I say, it doesn't take long to find.
And that's exactly what I found when I investigated how they would write their papers on the sextant. They would properly describe it, and then they would improperly describe it, all in the same document. And then I'd find documents that properly described it and wouldn't have the garbage involved. Then I'd find documents that would just be the garbage and no proper explanation. So I've got them all. It's all saved. I just can't wait to hear their responses. And if they want to come on the show, we'll take them one at a time.
Cool. Well, I look forward to it.
Yeah, if they come. I mean, it's pretty simple. You can't take an angle measuring device and say it's working on the curved surface. It's over right then and there. It's over, done, finished. I mean, if you want to push it past that point, you're going to look the fool.
Oh, did you drop something?
No, not me.
Where did that come from? Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, as you cause audio chaos for us. Did you have something you wanted to actually say? Or did you just want to blow down your microphone? Hello, Mr. Scott? Hello? Hello? Alrighty then.
Hello?
Hello, Neil.
Yeah, I'm having bad reception here, so I'm going to stay on mute.
Can't hear you. Too quiet.
He said
I
he's
said
having...
I'm having terrible reception here. I'm going to stay on mute.
Well, we got that good.
Which I don't understand because all I am is one floor up. Yesterday, 28. Today, 29. Why can I only get reception in this freaking little corner?
Yeah, I'm leveling things up, which is why
Yeah,
I'm hoping you'll give us a bit more dialogue. So I've changed. I'm just learning slowly how to make the sound better and better and better. And occasionally you do things, change things, and introduce new things, and then go back, study a bit more, and go, oh, actually, that would have been better done in a different order. So then you change it and think, well, how does that affect all the other things in the chain? Well, I better start from fresh then. So I then reset everything to 0 at the start of this show, and I've started fiddling with it again. So if this pre-show's got terrible audio, we'll know why.
Yeah, Neil, you and I suffer from the same problems. You know, I go into a building and I just look at an elevator and my perception is cut.
Yeah.
You're roboting, Neil. It's going to be a fun show. I can feel it already.
So Eli, you get some sleep or did you stay up late?
No, I actually got some good sleep because I'm working longer days to cut my work days short so that I can stop being a worker bee slave and move into what I already know is best for me.
Good.
If I still have time. You know. But I have faith in the Father, and so however my life will go, it will go.
Supposed to have satellites, right?
Well, you got a satellite phone. So anybody in Discord, Nathan? I can't see.
Yeah, there's a few people, but the guy that just literally caused a load of mic chaos left the moment you said that. Is he going to ask me to talk again? I better go.
Come on, we got 10 minutes.
So it's like
Good morning, all.
Morning.
Hello,
morning.
whoever that was. Who was saying hello? Hello, whoever you were.
You're here.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, you can call me Jorge.
I think he said George.
Wow. I heard Jorge.
Same thing.
So you know, I've been handed down the information from the Supreme Being. Well, I could say you stumbled upon it, you guys stumbled upon it, and then I ran with it. And I'm like starting to put it to the back like I used to do the Black Swan because it ends the conversation. You know, they want to play this game where it's like, let's pretend that everything that was said, you know, wasn't said. And so I can employ all the fallacious rhetoric as possible and we can waste time. But when I start off, would you mind reading this for me, please? And it's those two paragraphs where you have the diagram of the 3 right triangles. And I mean, they just leave, man. I gotta stop. If I want to have any conversation with anybody, I can't talk about the sextant.
Can't talk about the Black Swan, can't talk about the Sextant.
Remind me of the picture. I've got so many pictures going out. Which were those pictures again?
I'll post it in Master B.
All right.
Did you want me to put them
Yeah,
up?
but that's good because you're keeping on the topic and you're not letting them get off until a clear answer is given. And then you can move on. But it seems like you're not moving on.
Did you want me to post something? Did you want me to put it up? Whatever it is you've just posted in Master B.
Well, why not? Let's see.
Yeah, right. Why not? So
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing to move on from. I mean, they say, oh, that's interesting, but what about satellites? Well, however they're using them must be over a flat plane, because, well, what about, I don't know, what comes first in the point of order, whether the Earth is a ball or not, or whether you're doing something on a ball. All right. Anything to the passage you just read? Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, all right. I'm gonna go, guys.
Yeah, well done. That's the S1, S2, S3, right?
But more importantly, you've got to develop your fundamentalist religious zealot voice better. Got to give it some character. Just sounds like you.
Oh, right. I have to mutter. I'm gonna go.
That's much better. Much better. Talk completely off mic in the wrong direction and mutter as much as you possibly can so people can't really hear what you're saying.
I see you.
What? My dog asked me a question. I mean, I gotta go.
I had an electrical storm. Everything shut down. I'm back now.
Oh. Well, it's the central angle that they want to put it to our mind. So I just say, hey, that central angle of yours on that two-dimensional circle in that drawing, does that form a 90?
Oh.
You know, it's funny. I asked them, so you know what a radius is, right? And they're like, the radius of Earth. I'm like, no. For months, you guys kept avoiding that. You didn't care about that. I'm not talking about that radius.
No, the radii of those three circles of equal altitude with 90 degrees capable from all of them, measurable from your point on a flat plane. What about those? I think it's time for me to leave. See how I made the fundy a bit more something?
Mm. And what source is that? That is the source from their side.
Yeah, all of your citations come from Globe references about sextant use, right?
All of them.
Yeah, when they go to the good old, well, have you used a sextant? Do you know how one works? Oh, no, I haven't. I live in Brooklyn. I've never set sail a day in my life. I went on a fishing trip with my father, but that's about it. But there are many people showing you how to use the sextant. In fact, here's a video right here. He has 4 10-minute videos, very comprehensive. Shows you exactly how the sextant is practically used over the flat and level plane. Here you go. Navigation School 101.
Hey, Adam, can you hear us?
Afternoon, guys. Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Get my mic set up.
I've adjusted all my audio settings again, so
Ready for me to cock it up? Yeah, sorry.
well, no, it's just I think what I was doing was I was adding gain at the first step in the chain, so it's gain, then compression, then another compressor, then a limiter. No, that's strictly not true. There's a it doesn't matter. That's the most important bit. But then after reading a few or watching a few videos from producers and mastering engineers and various different things, they'd all give the same advice, which is don't necessarily add gain at the compression stage. It's too early. Add it later. I'm like, well, I'm adding it before the compression stage, so let's try adding it at the end. So I just flipped it round, put the gain after all the compression. Suddenly it's completely overloading everything. I'm like, oh, God. So I've had to fiddle. But I think that is the right way round, because I was getting very limited dynamics. But maybe now it's more dynamic, and that's wrong also. I don't know till we go live and I can go and check it.
Well, Neil's here, so you'll get some.
No, that must be what I'm hearing. Yeah, nope, that's good.
You're not
Hey,
hearing
Nathan,
any
I've got.
There's more life or more breath in the audio.
you won't hear any of it in this. None of it's going to my output lines that are internal. So what you get from the desk, I don't give a shit. You're not getting good sound.
Oh shit. All right. Well,
Hey, Nathan, we got a couple of minutes. I put 3 little gifts in Master B for you to play.
Okie doke.
before that, hello, Adam. All right, go ahead.
Hey, Eli. Oh no, we'll do it after show. After show. Was that my drunken ramblings the other night that you posted without sound?
Yeah.
Thought you were talking to me.
The more important thing, I was like, well, I was pissed off at Adam, but just focus on what he's drawing.
I'll catch up.
He's insane.
Good stuff. I've just been playing through your GIFs, 10th man. Very straightforward
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, these are stuff that ballers put out.
Yeah, the first one didn't make a whole lot of sense because it's showing a sphere Earth, and then it shows the stars in a celestial sphere plotted above them, but then it gives the circles. In other words, when this isn't just a screenshot with just obviously a circle with a bit of land, this shows it actually as a sphere. But that means the circles drawn aren't circles of areas of equal altitude anymore.
Correct, but that's the paradox I'm talking about. They're saying they're circles of equal means equal. I mean, do I have to go there? I hope not. Altitude. That's really another word for zenith or plumb line position. So anywhere on the circle, it's the same distance. And then they finish it off by saying the radius of the GP to you is the distance. Well, when is the radius bent?
It isn't.
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing is paradox. They're lying about the nature of Earth. They're lying about how a sextant really works. They put it all into a book that has a bunch of things that are true and a bunch of things that aren't true because they're leading you down the road of a sphere. And we're just showing you geometry.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut, no, live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, Then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, 10th Man, Neil, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, good to have you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Gonna need R for that, aren't you?
You are going to need R for that, Adam.
So with that in mind, I would have to say no.
Bummer.
Sorry.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
I'll follow that up with you're going to need R for that as well.
That's right, you are going to need R for axial rotation in radians. You're going to need an R for that. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
You know what?
You're going to need a presupposed Earth center.
You're gonna need an R to know where that center is.
I think they say they know where it is. That's how they get their angles from the surface of the Earth. Isn't that interesting, Adam?
Now, assuming that they've never been there, I don't think anybody's ever made a claim. Then, sadly, then to draw an angle to that, you'd have to know a distance, and that distance would be R. So
There's no evidence of a molten core inside of a gobstopper Earth.
There's no evidence of a molten core sextant operator.
Any evidence of the distance to the Sun?
Doesn't it take an
altogether.
AU?
What are we going to need for the distance to the Sun?
I need a sextant for that, and R as well.
if you're going to use kind of standard measurement units, you are going to need R for that. But you could describe it in Arwinian units, and it will be 3.
3 AU.
3 AUs, yeah.
3 Arwinian units. But
Yeah,
they're based
I
on
think
distance to rainbows.
Yeah.
They're not
That's
very
what I was
useful.
going to say. Yeah, it doesn't require R unless you're counting the R as the distance to a rainbow, and it's apparently, coincidentally, equivalent to 3 of those as well.
Do I need to ask the question again? Owen's not here to carry on that fast for you, Adam, I'm afraid.
Yeah, maybe you should then.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Yep, Tony.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well timed, wasn't it? I'm mute.
We get a sound check from you, Sleeping Warrior. I'm fully expecting you to blast my eardrums out.
Sorry, I didn't realise I was on mute. See, I was waiting for the gravity question. See, there's a bit of a problem with the gravity question, isn't there? You know when they say that every story's got 2 halves, there's always 2 sides to a story, right? So, like, typical example, you get a boyfriend and a girlfriend, they split up and one of them starts being vicious, and then, there's always 2 sides to the story. If you never get to find out that there's a second side to a story, you have no idea what really went on. And when you do find out the second half to the story, even then you don't really know. You just hear 2 sides to the story. The problem with gravity is none of us got taught that there was 2 sides to it. We all got taught that there was just the one side. But I got to 40 or 36 when I started to realize that there was another side to gravity that I didn't know existed. I just wish I'd have been told when I was 16. That's the problem with gravity. We're not taught anything scientific about it. We're taught the old position in gravity, not the current position in science for gravity. So how can anybody understand what the science for gravity is when none of us were taught it? That's the problem with gravity.
So gravity's got another side. Is it like a bit aggressive when it gets drunk or something?
Yeah, it's like a coin, isn't it? It's like there's the head side and there's the tail side. If it's got two sides to a story, it's called a mority, right? If it's got a mority, it's got two sides to it. But if you never know that the second side exists to be able to question, well, which one's right and which one's wrong, then you're always going to believe the one that you were told because you don't know what you don't know until someone points it out and says, hang on a sec, there's a different science here that none of us were all taught. And then what that then does is it breeds a direct conflict with 99% of us that didn't get taught the other sides of the coin, because 99% of people suddenly start questioning, hang on a minute, why didn't we get taught that? So the reality becomes 99% of people suddenly start questioning you about the stuff that's antiquated, and it becomes very murky, very hostile, very, very quick. But the answer to your question is, what scientific evidence is there for gravity? There is none. Most people don't even realize that it's a mority and there's two sides to it. Most people still think it's one and still push that it's one. I mean, Farmer's Boy, for example, he still tells people that mass attracts mass. He's been corrected God knows how many times with the current position by Einstein, and he either rejects it because he doesn't like it, he doesn't understand it and doesn't want to learn, or just doesn't like it because it just goes against his plethora of evidence that he thinks he's got for a ball. So he just dismisses it. But in any event, he still tells people that gravity is a force attracting mass between bodies that pull things together. And it hasn't been that way since World War II. That's a big problem, guys.
Well, I'd like to, because you said something there about gravity having no scientific evidence or validation, which presents a third option, which lets me know that the two sides is actually a false dichotomy. We don't even know if there is a thing at all.
You're absolutely right. So when I describe it as a mority, that a mority assumes that there is two sides to it, right? Which in most cases there is. There's two sides to every story, but you're right. It is a false dichotomy, but that's advanced flat Earth conversation that most people can't even get their heads around. They can't get their head around the fact that there's a second alternative, let alone a potential third. But you're right. There it is the amority that I'm talking about. We don't get taught at school. That is two sides to a story that's actually a false dichotomy. There's actually three, and they definitely don't want us talking about the third one. But I think we should take little steps and say, well, there's a second side here that nobody ever gets taught, and that would explain why there's so much hostility against the notion that gravity is not a force.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Tap, tap, tap. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
I think the best way to describe that one would be to cite Danny Faulkner. Dr. Danny Faulkner is an astronomer. He claims to have a PhD in astronomy, and he thinks he knows what science is, and he thinks he's got all the answers. Yet cites somebody on Blue Marble Science for gas pressure without a container. Dr. Danny Faulkner doesn't know what science is. Again, it's a common theme on their side because they're not taught it properly.
What a twonk. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
See, I've been watching the show as best I could for the last few days, and I see a lot of conversation in chat about how no one agrees with Nathan about gas having no weight. And it's funny because unless you can stick it on a set of scales to measure the thing that you guys call weight, which is really a measurement of how far away from equilibrium an object is in the medium it's in, but unless you can stick it on a set of scales, gas cannot have any weight. So what they do to say, well, it can have weight because we can put it in a container, And then when it's in a container, we can then measure the difference, and then we can subtract one from the other to get the weight. But it's got to be in a container to do that, which makes the Earth a contained container. Because if we have got atmospheric pressure and we have got weight to Earth, it has to be contained. But they ignore that and they claim that as their argument when it's actually our argument. There is no evidence for gas pressure without a container. It all disperses. It follows the free expansion of gas law, and there is no gas law that gives a directionality to gas. That debunks their claim.
Well, as you've described their conversation, the claim begins with a red herring fallacy in the first place. I don't know why they think it's okay to deal in logical fallacies, or is a red herring? Yeah, logical fallacies, because when they say, well, gas has weight, what does that have to do with it having to be contained or not? Not a damn thing.
Well, I have this out with Zorg. He comes in on different versions because he ends up getting blocked for overtly lying. The problem with gas pressure having weight is that the definition of weight is a defined term in physics. It's got a different meaning to what colloquially we understand to be weight. In physics, weight is defined as mass times the acceleration due to gravity. Well, we know that gravity is not a force and it doesn't accelerate matter, so that's a big, massive, fat zero. So if you multiply anything by zero, you always get zero. So that instantly rules that one out. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that we give them that one and say, well, where do you get the mass from? Unless it's in a container, it cannot have any weight because it disperses according to the free expansion of gas law. There is no gas law that gives any directionality to gas. So that also debunks their claim. So when they claim that gas has got weight, atmospheric pressure has got weight, and that's different to gas pressure, they can't satisfy either term of their own definition for the term atmospheric pressure, because you need to have mass, you need to have weight. You can't have mass without a container, you can't have weight without gravity being an acceleration, and they don't have any gas laws that describe this.
So you can't have atmosphere without violating the second law of thermodynamics. Air doesn't take the shape of its sphere, it takes the shape of its containment. Atmosphere just begs the question. See that sphere bit in atmosphere? Yeah, that's them begging the question.
And let me just respond to when they say things like, nobody claims that you have gas pressure next to a vacuum. They say that it's 0.1 next to 0.2 and 0.2 next to 0.3. So let's do what they do and plonk ourselves on Mars. And we look back on Earth from the perspective of Mars. You can see that Earth is a little sphere and it's got what they say is a gas pressure all around it. What is it that gives the gas pressure from the vacuum the ability to stick to the outside of the ball and create a pressurized environment in direct contradiction to the second law of thermodynamics? And they need a force. They don't have a force, but in their model they do. But in real world, when we apply the current science, not that I agree with the current science, the current science states clearly that it's not a force. So the current position applied to their model makes nothing, right? So you can't have the gas pressure doing what they say in their model. Just because it's in their model doesn't mean it's right. When you apply current science to it, their model fails.
Can you either put your pop filter on or turn the mic off axis to where you're talking, because you're putting plosives into your mic and it's setting my subwoofer off?
I'm just a little bit close.
I don't think it's the distance, it's just that you're talking directly into the diaphragm and it's popping it. Just turn the mic slightly off axis so your gusts of air go past the mic instead of into it. You don't have to get you.
Do we have to destroy my point with a tech talk?
People don't like plosives. What do you want?
I just want people to understand that when they say...
Hold on, Eli. Hold on. Let him summarise his point again. My bad, Anthony. Go ahead.
I just want people to understand that when they distinguish gas pressure from atmospheric pressure, they can't satisfy their own term because the correct interpretation of the definitions that they use to cite those terms, their own definition doesn't describe what happens because the physics doesn't support it. I don't know what the term is other than complete shit. There is no explanation for what they get wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, Eli.
Yeah, I was only saying that now I have a whole bunch of noise in the background. Okay, good. No, I was saying, yes, I appreciate you explaining that, and I encourage you to explain that they don't have a definition for weight right now. if they go with the current rhetoric, that they live on a ball with gravity being the bending of space-time. I really like that because for some people, this is what's required for them to break their trance in this whole paradigm. I didn't even understand it, and I'm glad for you for helping me understand it more.
I was describing this to somebody just recently, that when you look at the definition for weight in its normal sense, we all know what it means, but in science, it's mass times the acceleration due to gravity. The problem is that acceleration due to gravity is zero when you apply current science to their model. Now, that means that it invalidates their model, but they come back with, well, it is in our model. Well, in your model, when you apply current science to it, the acceleration due to gravity is zero because, and I quote, the current position in gravity in science today, it is the apparent acceleration of a non-accelerating matter that gives the appearance of an acceleration when there is none. That's why it's not a force. It's a bit like a boat on the horizon refracting in the heat haze. It's shimmering up and down, and you're watching it squash and shrink and stuff, and you know that it's the medium causing it. That's what that's what gravity is. So in the Eddington experiment of 1919, this is the claimed proof that they claim for general relativity, right? And it disproves their claim for gravity having a force because it showed the stars in an apparent position that was supposed to be slightly different to where they physically are, caused by the mass of the sun during an eclipse. It wasn't an actual acceleration, it was an apparent acceleration. That's why gravity is not a force. So if you understand it's nothing more than a lensing effect, in other words, like refraction, then it doesn't accelerate mass. It just bends space-time around it. And that's what we perceive as acceleration, but it's not actual acceleration. There is no force. So therefore, in the equation, weight equals mass times the acceleration due to gravity. That acceleration isn't due to gravity. It's perceived only. It's a big fat zero. That debunks their model. They need weight, and they need it to be ascribed to gravity, but they don't have it. And that Eddington debunked it in 1919.
Sure. I mean, I'm going to give credit to Brian, actually. While I reiterated Brian's point, and people have latched on to me because I've reiterated Brian's point, all credit to Brian. He's where I was supporting his point when I made that point. But what I used was a woman floating around. Now, if you cast your mind back 5 or 6 years to early stages of flat Earth debate, not the show, but the discussion itself, you'll probably recall people saying, well, if it wasn't for gravity, you'd just float off. Yeah? Right. Yeah. So, in other words, if it wasn't for gravity, we'd have no acceleration down, and therefore we wouldn't be moving down even when we're completely stationary in the medium we're in. So it'd float off. Hold on, Anthony. So it'd float off, right? Well, what does gas do precisely? Does it pool on the ground? Is it held down 9.8 meters per second when it's stationary in a puddle, not floating off in all directions? No, it's effectively, by their own description, weightless, because it's floating off in all directions, not going down. So when they tell me, oh, you'd float off if it wasn't for gravity, what, like gas? Like weightless?
That's a good point.
Well, let's apply what Nathan's just said to their definition.
I don't know about you guys. I just tripped over some gas earlier. I don't know about you guys.
Let's just apply what Nathan's just said into their maths there, because you know what they're like for maths, right? Gravity pulls everything down on they think that, right? So if we multiply the average mass, not weight, the average mass of the average adult, let's just say round figures, it's 100 kilograms. Then you add the 9.8 meters per second squared, the acceleration due to gravity. But then you remember the acceleration isn't due to gravity, it's perceived only, and it's actually a zero. That means that the 100 kilograms times by zero becomes 0 newtons. Therefore, in their model, applying the current physics, their model fails because they think that all masses are weightless when you apply the current physics. It debunks their model. We don't need to have any more conversations. It's game over. Why do we need to become experts in every single field of physics? We don't have to debunk every single claim. We just need to debunk one, and that one claim is over because mass times zero equals zero. And therefore, your model does not represent reality.
Anyone got any further comment on gravity before I move on to radius?
Damn, I said I tripped over gas. I didn't even get a haha. Like the hell. Good morning, guys.
No, I latched onto
enjoying
your
it there, chocolate.
I latched onto your sarcasm and made it into an actual worthy point. Now, maybe audience members laugh, but your point's worthy, right? Sarcastic or otherwise, you're saying you're not tripping over gas, and that's a worthy point of expansion. Boom, boom.
I was only going to say I'm getting
I like that.
sick of coming into my shed every single day and having to sweep out the gas that keeps accumulating on the floor overnight. It's
chocolate.
I had a really good one the other day. Someone said, how did mustard gas work in the war then? And the answer is they chucked mustard gas in towards the trenches because it's more dense than the air it's in, right? Not being pulled by gravity, because we know it's not a force. It's just more dense than the air it's in. But over a few minutes, or maybe 30 minutes, 40, an hour, that gas, that mustard gas, disperses into the medium in accordance with relative density, right? Because there is that thing where it'll just disperse, right? But it's not staying in the trench, which is what it would do on their model. So even that mustard gas still went up, not stayed down. That's a problem for them.
No, it's not in line with relative density, although that is our description and you can apply it. It's in line with the second law of thermodynamics. When you describe dispersion, that's an entropic effect. Shout out to Godzilla37. All my gas has so much weight, oh God, that the people in the apartment below had me to be hospitalised. Let's just read that again. All my gas has so much weight that the people in the apartment below had me to be hospitalised. Yeah, it was just badly written.
Chocolate. I got a question for Chocolate.
What's up, man?
Yeah, the reason that you didn't trip, was it because you were wearing your Air Jordans?
Yeah, I just jumped over the gas, right?
So let me just address Bobby Steele's in chat. He says, gas clearly has weight though. Why deny it? It doesn't have weight unless it's in a container. If you can show us gas having weight in a vacuum, be my guest. But until
Hold on.
evidence
weight is down,
materialises-
right? Anthony, weight's a downward vector.
No. That's what they want you to think. Because
No, I'm going by their rhetoric. According to this guy you're talking to.
Yeah, by their rhetoric, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a downward vector to apply.
Yeah.
Right. So gas, yeah. Let's say that some of it, if you use this false, what's the word? Convention to define gas, right? You can say some of it is heading down towards the scale, bounces off the scale, and in this case you're saying mustard gas is more dense. That's your argument, right? But I just say no. You just put it in a room and you can see the scale go up, right? But as you've already described, gas expands in all directions, yeah? Through the gaps in the other gas with an entropic effect you've also detailed called dispersion. Now, that being the case, that would mean that some of the gas, mustard gas, is moving away from the scale. Would you agree?
Of course.
So how do you qualify the quote-unquote weight, that would be the force in a downward vector, for the mustard gas that's not going down? How'd you weigh that?
Well, we ignore that because it's an inconvenient
No,
truth.
that's still mustard gas going up, but doesn't have a down vector 9.8 meters per second squared and isn't affecting the scale in any way, shape or form. It's going up. So how'd you give it a down vector?
This is the conundrum. This is the reason why they can't join.
Not a conundrum. You don't. That's the answer.
Correct.
Quick shout out to Retro Bill. At a distance of half the Earth's radius, objects suddenly become weightless. Right. Where is the demonstration of this? Oh, right. You're asking. Indeed. Thank you for the super chat, Retro Bill.
I've got something.
What radius?
I've got something I was just thinking about.
What, we're moving on to that.
I know why gas is heavier. It's moving slower at ground level. That's why.
Heavier, slower, if it's going up, regardless. It's going up. It's not going down slower if it's going up. It's not going a bit less down. It's just not going down at all. It's going up.
Well, I'm just thinking of Einstein's theory. Time runs slower at ground level than it does at the higher level. So that's why. Come on now, Nathan.
Time?
That's why.
What do you mean time runs slower? Time is a convention. Have you bastardised this convention
That's what they
into
say.
physical reality there, Paul, and are now telling me that we've got differences in time, a convention, at different heights? What crock of crap?
That's what the science says, and that's what the equations come up with. That
Sorry,
time
that's what the
runs
science,
faster.
that's what the equations. Whoa, 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 cowboy. What?
That's what they tell us.
Well,
I'm just saying. I'm not an expert, but that's what they say.
I like Sleeping Warrior's answer to this. Well, they don't have weight defined if they're going with Einstein. So it's weight. There is no weight.
Well, if they go with Einstein, it invalidates the maths for weights. So they do have it defined, but Einstein application invalidates it because the acceleration is zero. But let me just say this one last bit again. When they talk about gas pressure, right, which gas law gives gas a direction? Because there isn't one, but there is one on our side that says it expands freely in all directions. It's called the free expansion of gas or the dual expansion of gas law, but they don't have one that's got a directionality to it. That in itself is a massive hole in their argument, and they completely ignore it.
The other day, Virus made a comment in the YouTube saying something about all the gas laws presuppose a container. But why do you think that is? I never got a response to him from that because we went into a whole other shit. But it led back to that, and he refused to answer that question. Why do you think that is, Sleeping Warrior?
It's because if you don't have a container, the free expansion of gas law dictates what the gas behavior will do.
Whoa.
Come on, the
that's
time thing, that
terrible, isn't it?
contains it.
Without the
I just
container,
talked about
there'd be
it.
no pressure.
That's 4 people all at
Correct.
once. Paul, go ahead.
I say that it's the time thing. I just talked to you about it. That's containing the gas, the time differential, the dilation. That's what's causing it.
Sorry, the
Don't you
reified
guys get
concept
that?
you've just tried to force down our throats of time and its difference when applied incorrectly is now a container, did you say, Paul?
That's what they're saying. Again, it's the science, Nathan. It's the science, man. You're a science denier. Don't you accept the science?
Sorry, no, I'm not a science denier. You haven't given me any. You've just made a blow of nonsense. Al Junkie, to solve the issue, we ought to ask a gastronomer. We'll meet him at the gastropub.
So
That's the song. If I could save time in a bottle.
But Paul, okay, you gave me a lovely story. You said it's the science. Okay, great. How is this knowledge verified? How can I verify it?
let me just
Or can
one
or
other
can I
thing.
just dismiss it as not knowledge if there is no validation?
One other thing with respect to a common claim that they claim that gravity is the container. Well, because gravity doesn't act on matter, gravity only applies to non-accelerating mass. That's the thing to remember. Gravity doesn't apply to anything accelerating. So you need a force for something that's changing direction or speed. So because gravity doesn't do that, it only applies to things that are not accelerating. So it doesn't apply in this context, but they need it to apply. So that's why they make it into a force, but it's not one. So because gravity is not a force, it cannot be the container. It's literally that simple.
What's gravity?
It's an apparent acceleration of a non-accelerating object, like a boat on the horizon shimmering. It's nothing more than refraction.
Okie dokie.
It's a
Can we move
cool
on?
story.
Can we move on? Any evidence of the R value? That would be Earth radius.
Black Swan. Sextant.
I
No.
hope you're typing clickety-clackety there, Anthony.
No, that was the dog changing his position, Nathan. It wasn't typing.
With you. Oh, is
Not
that your dog
guilty.
changing your position with the mic wide open, Anthony?
Yeah. He gets off his comfy cushion, moves next to his cushion onto the hard floor, spins round and sits down, and in 2 minutes' time, you'll hear him doing it again, going back onto
Bear
the
with
cushion.
me. Hold on. Got breaking news from the Peanut Gallery, a.k.a. the Trolls, a.k.a. the Anti-Flat Earthers. They say your dog's dead, Anthony. What gives?
Oh, well, see, you've just heard him in background, so I don't know. Is that good enough evidence to indicate he might not be? It wasn't typing.
I'm pretty sure that's you doing it intentionally. So this subject comes up. Dun dun dun.
I can get him on camera. He might
No
be a bit
thanks.
grumpy, but
I'm
I can
good.
do it.
I've seen him. I'm happy. I know he's alive. I've seen him. Yes. When I last fussed him, he was very much alive, and I can hear him in the background now, ruining the live show. I mean, letting us all know he's alive and well.
They're still going to accuse you of slipping a Mickey.
Well, they can accuse me of all sorts of things.
If he wasn't alive and well, Riley wouldn't have had me doing dosage calculations this morning. Pointless.
Correct. Because someone's changed his meds.
Funny when you have no proof that you live on a magical
Hold
spinning
on,
water ball.
Chocolate. Sorry. Let me get it straight. What fallacy did Adam... I know it's
affirming the consequence.
So basically, if dosage calculation, then dog alive. That was what we just got from Adam. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
So by that standard, Adam,
Yep.
if NASA wouldn't be doing the calculations for the fuel if they weren't actually going there, right, Adam? By that standard.
That is, if you just take that as what I said, there was a little caveat. Riley wouldn't be wasting my time, or why would he be wasting my time? It would be one hell of a pretense. But yeah,
perfect.
Do you know what makes it different?
Out.
Do you know what makes it different? I can actually prove that the dog is alive by getting him on camera right now if I wanted to, if it was really important and I could. You know, like, it's not that I don't want to pander to the ball earthers. Like they say NASA don't want to pander to the flat earthers. I could actually do that, but they can't do that. So they need an excuse why not to do it.
Okay, well, I can fire a laser beam at the reflectors they left. And why would NASA waste our time doing the calculations for the fuel that they'd use if they didn't do it, Adam? Why would they waste our time like that?
Oh, brilliant. Al Junkie, a dog's universe solely consists of bark matter. That's brilliant.
Al Junkie, thanks for the super chat. That was the best pun for quite a considerable amount of time, Al Junkie. Very good.
It took the biscuit, that one.
Bark matter. That's absolutely brilliant.
I spotted it, Meekin, even though Nathan didn't.
It came through later for me than it did for you. So Adam, literally though, one of the things they do apply as an argument is the calculations of the fuel they use when travelling through the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum.
Yeah, I would agree. And if that was the only evidence, other than the dog at the other end of the Skype and a grown man, you know, texting you late at night saying, how do I sedate my dog because I'm scared of him? There's other preponderances of evidence that support that calculation.
That sounds familiar.
To be fair, though, to get his nails clipped, it did take 3 adults to pin him down. So it wasn't an unjustified fear. Got
to be blunt with Anthony now. Subtly tried 3 times to segue away from dog and onto NASA. He's just not having it. He wants to talk dog.
So Zorg9 says, who agrees with Nathan when he says that gases are weightless? We've already dealt with that, but you're welcome to join and tell us how gases are weight, or have weight if you wish. But the reality is, without a container, there is no weight. You've got to be able to weigh it.
That seems like an intentional ploy. I've noticed that as a pattern. You'll cover something on the show or in the chat, and without recognition or acknowledgement, they'll just circle jerk immediately back to a point that's already been covered. So the first words off Anthony Slit's were, that's just been covered. In fact, covered with a few new aspects added in for good measure. What, should we rehash it? Because somebody from the chat is like, does gas have weight? Well, according to you guys, if I didn't have gravity applied to me, I'd float off. Like gas. I'd be weightless, right? I'd float off. Like gas. So you tell me, it's your paradigm, using your terminology, you fundy idiot. That's why I had a woman floating around with word G on her sweatshirt. Yeah? She's talking about G and how much of it there is. And she's claiming to be in 0 G, therefore floating around. What does gas do? Does it go down, go boom boom, 9.8 meters per second? Or does it just float around like that chick was demonstrating? Yeah? Oh, what's that? It's actually going down. Well, that isn't the illusion she was trying to portray now, was it? All the windows were painted shut, so you didn't notice the fact that she's falling down. When she's actually falling, and you keep the camera stationary on her in a completely sealed off plane where you can't see the outside world, it looks like she's floating around, precisely like gas does. And how does she describe floating around? Oh, she says it's being weightless. But what, it's a stretch for me to use your vocabulary and vernacular to say that gas is weightless? I don't think so.
There has been a rebuttal from our side on this gas pressure thing, Nathan. I won't ascribe it to anybody, but one argument was, see, over time, it gradually reduces its kinetic energy because it runs out of energy. It's a bit like the Simon Dan one, where he says it runs out of energy and comes back to Earth because it runs like a car running out of fuel. So he says it loses kinetic energy. What do you say to that?
What, reaches absolute zero? Does that, Adam?
Well, he says if you put a certain amount of like gas.
No, I heard the claim. I just sensed Adam's voice coming through that with the same disdain I was about to launch into, but I've had enough already. Adam, feel free.
I'm just going to ask, what is the thing that's taking the kinetic energy away from the gas particle? That's
I don't know. And I wanted to know, did he understand that elastic collisions were caused by collisions, not inelastic? And I didn't get any answer from it. So it's an ignorant answer, unfortunately, from our side. But that was the claim. That was what was said.
It's when the gas reaches the magic speed.
Yeah.
Well, that was what I was going to go on to.
That is its kinetic energy in a simple term. And that's kind of regulated with PV equals nRT. But fundamentally, it's the T. So that previous statement would mean, I'm assuming you're keeping the T constant with you if you leave it over time, not leave it to cool down or anything. If you do take that, then it's wholly false. The kinetic energy, if the T stays the same and the other parameters stays the same.
Yeah, I think he sees it as like buckyballs, where they're bouncing off the walls but losing a little bit of energy each time they make the bounce. I think that's how he sees it.
How does a gas stop, Adam? Under what circumstances?
Theoretically, it would stop at absolute zero because that's when its kinetic energy would be zero, I think. So, but that's a theoretical place, isn't it?
So for his explanation to make sense, the gas would have to run out of kinetic energy. That would be to reach absolute zero. And as a result of reaching this theoretical idea of something that's never ever experienceable, it would then have gravity take over to bring it back down at 9.8 meters per second. Wow.
That's my only thing, that in some way gravity has a methodology not postulated by anyone, but of taking away kinetic energy over time from gas particles. That would
hold on. Where's that in PV equals nRT?
It's not.
It's not? No. Oh, right. What's the V?
That'll be a volume.
Volume of what?
Well, the containment.
The volume of the containment for the gas. Yeah. And the pressure would be the what force it exerts on the walls of that containment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's dictated by what? The temperature and what now?
The temperature of the temperature and that then defines the speed of the molecules, their kinetic energy, so the force in which they then hit.
Go back to absolute zero. Force. For there to be no force, it would have to be, in terms of the T measurement, zero. Correct?
Yeah. It'd stop vibrating, and therefore they wouldn't be behaving like gas anymore, would they? They just because they're not vibrating.
No, not necessarily. What it would mean is it put no P, right? There's no longer any pressure. So there's no pressure, but there is no G in PV equals nRT. So where's it runs out of energy and then comes back down to Earth, go boom, boom. Where's that in the equation?
It's not in that or any other. It's not considered in any, I think Riley mentioned it, any of the gas behaviour laws. It's never mentioned.
So who came up with this, Riley? This complete tripe? You say Simon Dan? I don't know, I can't remember. I'll think about it. Thanks, Anthony.
Mickey's hair.
Oh, sorry, what was the question?
Who came up with this complete tripe of reaching absolute zero, losing all t, therefore having no p, and then after the fact, even though it's not part of the equation, going down, go boom boom 9.8 meters per second after it reaches absolute zero? Who came up with this complete crap?
Well, originally it was conspiracy cats. That was his explanation for why gas pressure will come back to Earth.
It's complete nonsense.
I know. It's a violation of Newton's first law.
So, from the guy who said without the container there can be no pressure, he also thinks that gas will go down, go boom boom after reaching absolute zero, even though there is no G in PV equals nRT. What's he babbling about?
Correct. Well, he thinks that because he can calculate it with the Boltzmann formula, he thinks that that makes it a suitable correlation, but he ignores that it's a correlation. He ignores the cause. And the fact is that gas molecules change in direction to go from up to down require a force. That's Newton's first law of motion. An object in motion or a gas molecule in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by a force. Well, they haven't got gravity as a force. That only applies to non-accelerating matter in the current science. So they haven't got a force to bring it back. So that gas molecule is going to keep continuing along its path and nothing's going to change it unless it's a force. Well, they don't have one. So, yeah, Conspiracy Cats is completely wrong. That's why he avoids that answer, that question at all costs. That's why he's lingering on sock accounts, because he won't stand up in his own name and stand up for the science that he teaches, because he hasn't got any science. It contradicts current laws. He hasn't got a gas law to describe this downward perception or direction. None of it works, and that's why he disappears like a fart in a colander.
The Boltzmann hasn't it got an aspect of entropy inside the Boltzmann formula? It's been a while.
Well, it's a probability distribution calculator, isn't it? So it plots where the probability of the distribution will be, not the actuality of it. It doesn't relate to anything. It's based on ideal gas law. It's not based on actual gas behavior. It's just another correlation, a calculated correlative.
You missed my point.
That should happen.
You missed my point. So it's going to need a V then?
It's going to need G, yeah. It's going to need
G
and V.
V.
Yeah, it's going to need G and V.
Where's he getting the V from?
Well, like Professor Dave says, you don't have to have an actual container. It can be any conceptual or imaginary container.
Stop. I don't give a crap what Professor Dave said about you don't need a container for a conceptual gas. No, that's right. And I don't need a farmhouse for a conceptual unicorn. Do I, Dave? However, when we're dealing with actual gases, there are things that you do require. One of them would be containment. So where do they get the V? You can apply Boltzmann. You're still going to need a V. Where are they getting it? Oh, theoretic. I don't care. We're talking about the gas I breathe, not your mathematical formula where you can conceptualise how gas behaves. I want to know how that works in reality. Where do they get the V?
I want to know where they get the G from.
There is no G. What G? Gas doesn't have this applicable. We've debunked it earlier. Gas does not go down, go boom, boom, 9.8 meters per second. Well, if gas has mass, as it does in their world, then it's violating their ideas of what gravity is. So we haven't got a G. There is no G.
I was applying the formula weight equals mass times acceleration due to gravity.
What's mass?
Forget that. Where's the G come from?
Why? What's mass?
God knows.
Well, in their world, gas has mass. In the real world, it's an equivocation fallacy.
This is why we need people like Zorgi that rather than troll the chat, which we allow you to do, Zorgi, as long as you're relatively kind, you need to be joining the panel and giving us all your science, because there isn't any science for your model. And when we apply the current science, your model gets debunked. You just don't like it.
Overcrowded Discord server. 14 people in there.
So my point being with all that, Tony, was I don't think it's reasonable to make the assertion that you've got this changing kinetic energy of gas caused by G with not even a mathematical description of how it happens. So as far as I've seen, I've not seen even a theoretical supposition, just in the maths of how it could happen. So never mind a practical demonstration.
Okay, I'll put it out there. Adam's asking for a mathematical description of how gravity affects entropy. We'd like to see that, please.
Yeah. And I'm asking for a gas law to describe a directionality to gas, because we've got one that describes what happens when it freely expands in all directions. There is no direction to it. So therefore, by exclusion, there can't be a gas law for a directionality to it, because we've already got one that says that there's no good directionality to it. So where is the heliocentric gas law that governs what's going on in your model?
It
Or
better
even
not
in
have a V
science.
in it, because if it has got a V in it, you're going to need to show the volume applicable to Earth as a sphere-shaped air in a vacuum, right? We're going to need a volume for that gas to be in. Obviously, in your heliocentric fantasy, you don't have a volume for your gas. You've got an arbitrarily assigned Kármán line. Now, that doesn't give you a volume, because there's more space beyond that arbitrary line. So we're going to need a V if it's got a V in your explanation for gas law being affected by gravity when it's not in any of the laws.
Yep.
Nobel Prize for the man that actually integrates gravity. That would be the conceptual bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space, having an effect on something we actually experience in our day-to-day lives. That would be entropic effects like dispersion. It's not going to happen.
Let me just I don't think Zorg9 is actually listening, but I want chat to know. He was saying something about Nathan rejected Katz's offer for a debate. Well, I accepted Katz's offer for a debate, and I even told him the one question I wanted him to answer, which is, how do you have gas pressure without a container? And he won't do it. So it's like, it is his kryptonite. The effect on kryptonite with Superman is the same effect on conspiracy cats with gas pressure without a container. He literally runs from it.
I asked him for R, and I was told by the so-called unbiased moderator that was an unreasonable thing to ask for a concession on. It's like, hang on a second. We've debunked the R value that every single argument is based upon. Now, the person that we're debating in this instance, I've been on Anthony's channel debating cats, with his funny muting of me, tolerated by Anthony, as it would be. And ultimately speaking, I've asked him dozens of times for the R value, some of which he highlights in his videos. A point I made clear to the guy who was claimed to be impartial. He subsequently made an anti-flat earth video about Antarctica. I just thought I'd drop that in, given that it was days after I was being told that it was a neutral platform. He's come out with an anti-flat earth video. How interesting. How very neutral. Meanwhile, I accepted, but asked for R, because I don't want to rehash old arguments where they're talking about drop values based on distances to geometric physical horizons. That would be Earth curve. We've debunked all that. So what I actually did was ask for R. Did I get it? No. Now, I agreed to debate cats. And as far as I'm concerned, as the guy cut me off, after me saying you're being unreasonable, all I'm asking for is you to give me something that I've asked for on multiple occasions, and I can give examples where in a live discussion he's asked for things multiple occasions, literally dozens of times, and won't answer them. So I want to know that I'm going to get an answer if I'm going to ask for R, and the unbiased moderator, in quotes, told me that was unreasonable to ask for. So what do you think I was going to get if I actually debated him? I'd ask for R, and I'd be told I was asking for something unreasonable by the unbiased moderator, wouldn't I? Because that's precisely what happened. I asked for R via email, and I didn't get it. So, via a third party, I didn't get R from cats. Do you think I'd get it in live discussion, or do you think it'd segue away 25 times? And then eventually I'd get told to stop asking. Yeah, I think I know which way it'd go down. That's why I asked for the concession in advance. Why would I want to go through the humiliation of being told, no, you're not allowed to ask for R, because the moderator's already told me that's precisely what's going to happen? Should I come against him, with him as the moderator? Nice anti-flat earth video, by the way, Pat. Nice to see your modest, I keep saying it modest, your unbiased status remained as such. What a joke. Yeah? Meanwhile, I asked for R and agreed to debate him. He could still give it me. I'd meet him tomorrow. On any platform he likes. Just tell me how he measured R, and I'll meet him wherever he likes. Give me an R measurement. Obviously not one we've ripped to pieces already. That would be silly. So that's all I'm asking for. Take it as read. Anybody watching this right now, I will debate cats wherever he likes. You just need to give me a measurement for R. You know what that sounds like? Precisely what I told the moderator. Pretty much verbatim, in fact. So what I asked for then, I'll ask for now. Do you think he'll give it me? Hey, Nathan Oakley, 1980 at AOL.com, cats. Email your measurement of R. I'll meet you wherever you like. Yeah? Oh, what's that? Stony silence will be the response, because he hasn't got R. We've debunked it. He damn well knows it and needs a moderator that'll tell me it's unreasonable to ask for it. That's what Cats needs, doesn't he? From a claim to be unbiased moderator who's making anti-flat earth videos. And will tell me how unreasonable it is to point out how dead your model is, because you haven't got R.
Let it out, Nath.
You up?
Let it out. Don't hold back.
I don't. Ever.
I just want to give a shout out to Tommy Hench. He asked Conspiracy Cats, I think it was either 17 or 19 times, how do you have gas pressure for that container? And in the end, eventually, when he weaseled an answer out, he just said, we don't need it. We just need the gas. Oh, really? So gas is just what? Coagulators, a cloud? Can we see that, please? Tommy wasn't expecting that answer. I don't even think he was expecting any answer. So he didn't think about the answer given, but it took him 17 attempts to answer that. So Cats, how do you have gas pressure without a container?
He also didn't expect the remix of the question. You know, he was told that the question that you're asking isn't correct. What you should be asking is, how do you have pressurized gas without a container?
And I never really understood that. Somebody will have to explain to me what the difference between pressurized gas and gas pressure is. I didn't get that, what he was trying to get at in that.
There isn't a difference. Pressurized gas or gas at pressure, it's exactly the same thing. You're going to require containment for both. Without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote, Conspiracy Cats. I'd like to see that also, Anthony. Oh, right, you just need the amount of gas. So dispersion, second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply. It's not going to expand into whatever volume it has available to it. It's going to stay in a designated area that you assign to it in mathematics. No, you've got a V in your PV equals nRT. And if the volume is the size of the room you're in, the gas is going to fill that. If there's an open window or even a tiny little crack, eventually the entropic effect will take hold and the gas will escape through the little hole with enough time. It's called entropy. So no, you don't just arbitrarily assign an amount of volume and say, well, the gas will just stay in there. No, it doesn't. Shockingly, it needs containment.
I was informed on Jim Panda's server that they don't need a container for the atmosphere because the gases in the atmosphere do not expand in all directions.
That's what gas does by its very nature. Further to that, where are they going to get sphere-shaped air from? So begging the question of a sphere, you're going to need an R value for your atmosphere. Where'd you get R? Oh, it's back to that same problem that Conspiracy Cats needs to spin into me running away from him when I'm merely asking for an R value, for all the assumptions that they make. One of which being sphere-shaped air, atmosphere. You're going to need an R value for that. For you to then arbitrarily tell us that gas doesn't follow gas behaviour anymore because it's suddenly in sphere-shaped air? Well, where's your R value for that assumption? You're going to need that. I'm going to want it for you to make that claim of sphere-shaped air. I thank you.
Well, they say, at least I think I understood that it was because of the gradient. That's proof that the gases in the atmosphere don't expand.
Sorry, because of the gradient. Sorry, that means they have expanded. The fact that there's a gradient means that they have expanded into the available volume.
Next time, ask them where that gas was produced. Then ask them about their gradient. Ridiculous.
Yeah, for the gas to be up on the top of Everest, where there's very little vegetation, if any, at the top, Yeah, there's still gas there. Well, is that because it went down, go boom, boom? No, it's because it made its way up. Now, there's very little to create extra gas there, so there's very little of it. Some of it will escape the dynamic cycles of the ground beneath. But ultimately speaking, the gas has actually followed entropic law to make it up there. That'll be up, where it isn't being produced, but still manages to be there. Yeah, that's because it is expanding in all directions. Your pressure gradient, a delta of gas pressure, which would require containment, merely demonstrates the entropic effect in action.
How does that water cycle work again? When water evaporates, where does that go?
Up.
Oh shit, that's messed up. They keep telling us it goes down.
Back to you tripping over puddles of gases again.
Yeah, man, the damn pesky gases on the floor. I mean, what are these guys smoking, man?
Smoke, you say? Which way does that go?
There you go. I think it goes up. Sideways, maybe a little bit down. I mean, it goes everywhere.
Ah, but carbon dioxide does go down, go boom, boom, right? We're all swimming around in layers of carbon dioxide all the time, aren't we?
Aren't you right now? I mean...
No. I mean, obviously, if I release a load of carbon dioxide temporarily, it's more dense than the air that it's been dispersed into, but it's still just got gaps between it everywhere, so eventually it'll just mix in with the anisotropic, inhomogeneous mixture of gases we already have with entropy. It's called dispersion. It'll disperse eventually. That's why you open your windows if you have a gas leak, so that it can all disperse. Obviously, if it was all going down, go boom, boom, it would never reach the windows.
That section above our heads that they call a vacuum, would that be considered a gap for the gas to fill? Do you think?
Yeah, that would be an area of volume. And as per gas law, that volume would be an area with available microstates. So you're going to fill that if you're a gas.
Gap.
Gaps, yeah, big gap.
That's not being filled by the gas.
No, it would be if it was real. That would be a violation of the second law of thermodynamics if it was actually the case, Chocolate. Exactly as they claim. So what they claim, a gap for gas to fill, part of the V, the volume, that would be space. So gas would be filling it and isn't. No, that just means space isn't real because we have entropic law. Gas would disperse into it. And we'd all be dead. So space is fake. Happily, we're all alive, breathing high-pressure gas. It's not dispersing into an area of volume called the sky vacuum, otherwise known as outer space. Space is fake.
Yeah, I just want to address what thing this guy in chat called, what's his name? Kevin Conrad. He says, tomorrow night, the first all-civilian mission to orbit, 4 regular civilians orbiting the Earth at 357 miles in Crew Dragon. Flirts will call them liars and masons because that is their only argument. And my response was, that's going to be a really great series, but you watch, I promise you, that thing that they're in, it'll be flying either east to west or west to east, and it won't be going in any other direction, right? So what's going to be the explanation? Oh, it's because of, I don't know, whatever they're going to come up with, right? But if the Earth's a flat plane, a level plane, right, and there's only one direction that they can go, and it's either east to west or west to east, right? Because everything's around the bullseye in the middle. But if it's a sphere, they can go in 359 other directions. 359 other directions will make it a sphere, but they'll happen to be, by coincidence, just that one direction, and it'll be east to west or west to east. You watch.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, and became a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Also, if you are watching this, stay tuned. There's going to be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!
Radio DJ.
Yeah, they took off in Norwich, flew over to Russia, and then back to Norwich, I think they did. And they thought they were in Russia for training, and they weren't. They were in Norwich.
That was fun. Fun to have you here, Sleeping Warrior. Been a while.
Yeah, I got a word in this time. It was good.
What are you trying to say?
I get stomped on by my own side when I begged for mercy twice, and I still got stomped on.
Right. Anyway, found it. Space Cadets with Johnny Vaughan.
Space Cadets. That was it.
Johnny Vaughan.
Yeah, it was Channel 5 when it was very new. Was it Channel 5? I think it was.
No, 4.
It was Channel 4.
UK. Yeah. Here you go. The series was a hoax at the expense of its contestants, who were told they were being trained as cosmonauts at a Russian military base before undergoing a 5-day trip into low Earth orbit. In reality, the entire series was filmed in Suffolk, and the contestants did not leave Earth. The series was accompanied by a behind-the-scenes sister show, Space Cadets, the satellite show with interviews and phones. So, yeah. See if I can find her.
Why would they put that idea in people's heads?
I don't know, but I always imagine one of the Space Cadets to be Red's rhetoric, because he'd totally fall for it, because his cognition bias is so in favour of space that he'd believe anything. All he'd have to see is, like, you know, the old style cartoons where they have a moving 2 scrolls in front of a piece of glass and it looks like there's something moving in the background. That's all he'd need to see to satisfy himself that he was moving up in the space, in the atmosphere, and then it turns black and then he thinks he's in space. That's all he'd need.
The thing that annoyed me the most about it, right, was they hoaxed them quite well initially. I've got the article up now from The Guardian about this. But when they actually got to the launch, they had a technical issue. And what happened was they were launching them in the 3-axis simulator thing that they got. And they got the 4K, no, not even 4K, I think it was IMAX projectors that were projecting the scenery outside the windows of the capsule that they're, moving them around in. But during the launch process, the sound went, like completely went, for them. So they're filming what they get to hear. Obviously they've got cameras on them and mics on them. But you could hear them talking amongst themselves, but all of the feed for the really loud bassy engines and all that sort of stuff stopped mid-launch during them trying to fake them. I'm like, well, that's it then. They've got to figure it out now, because all the sound's gone. If you were actually being launched into space, at the very least, the rumbling of the rocket engine, if it suddenly stopped, either you'd think, well, I'm in mortal danger now, I'm crashing to the ground, or you'd look out the window, see that everything else is normal and go, this doesn't seem right. And then a few crackly sounds, and then it comes back on again, like blatantly it's a speaker that's failed. But none of them picked up on it. It was, they carried on. They ploughed through. Obviously, the producers were having a little heart attack, going, oh my God, the sound's all gone inside the simulator. Get it working immediately. Not that they played that, but I can imagine, Offset, the producer, absolutely panicking, because it's done effectively as live. That particular bit might have even been done live. I can't remember, but either way, it was as live. So that cock-up very much made it to air. And you're like, surely they'll figure it out. The sound's all gone. Nope, they didn't.
When I was younger,
On screen,
when I was younger, my dad took us, like me and my brothers and stuff, went out, and a few friends. We went out to an old mine, and it was like converted into like a tourist thing where you could pay some money and go. You could go down the mine. And I remember when I was stood in the lift, the elevator shaft, and I remember thinking, right, I see the rocks that are rolling up, and I had this image of a scroll in my head. I thought, that just looks like a scroll. Didn't look like it was really, really going down, and I wasn't sure. I had the equivalence principle. I wasn't sure, was I actually moving or was I not? And I suspected that if I was an adult now, I don't even remember where it was, but I might even ask my dad and get some flat earthers to go and see whether or not this is real or not, because I felt that we weren't going anywhere, and there was just a rolling scroll on the window that gave the impression that we were. But anyway, they opened the door and we went out, and it was hot down there. It was a different style of air. It was like when you get off the plane and you're in a different country and it smells and tastes different. It was like that. So it did feel like I was in a different world, and I might have gone down a shaft, but with the critical thought that I've got as an adult now, I'd love to go back to that place and see whether or not we actually did go down, because it'd be really interesting if they were blagging it and we were just on the surface, just we thought we were going down and it wasn't.
Adam's got it on screen now. This is the 3-axis simulator that they got them in. And as I say, it was probably this episode because they're actually in it about to launch. And I noticed there was some of the 4K, or keep saying 4K, IMAX projection screens that they were showing some of the shots from outside. A bit further on, Adam, keep going. Anyway, that would have been that scene. So it's undoubtedly in there if you want to check it out. I think this is probably it. Part 4 will have it where there's a sound failure. There you go. So that out the window is being projected for them onto a massive screen by a industrial size cinema projector with massive reels on it, and that's the image they're getting. So it's hyper realistic. If anybody's ever been to an IMAX theatre, you can get a general idea of how good the resolution can be, because there is no resolution. It's coming from film. You know, it's as much as, you know, as you can possibly acquire in a very, very large format. So the resolution is outstanding and good enough to hoax people, with it being literally just a projection screen of this image out the window of their simulator. Amazing stuff, but must have cost a ton of money to put together. But it was I remember it coming out and it being a very, very compelling show. I watched all of it. Johnny Vaughan's also a good personality. You know, he's very funny.
Did you hear him coughing in the background then?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that was him.
Did you hear my lizard?
No.
Just coughing a second ago. Did you not hear that?
I did not. But to be fair, I had an ambulance going past or a fire engine or something, so all I could hear was the sirens.
We've got to start giving your lizard CBD drops.
So yeah, check it out if you're watching this. It's called Space Cadets. If you type in Space Cadets Channel 4, it will take you straight to it on YouTube. I mean, no doubt, like Adam's just had up on a second ago. And yeah, it's very, very, very telling.
It's the hypnotism, it's the mind control to get them there. It's very clever, because they truly believe, even then, as you said, even with problems, that they went to space. They're going to space. They went to Russia. Do you know what I mean? They're in total believance that this is reality.
It'd be cool if you could run 2 side-by-side tests of the same thing. You could get one sample group that were flat earthers, and you could get one sample group that were Red's rhetoric style, and you see how long it took for them, if there was a difference between them, to distinguish real world from fiction. Because I reckon flat earthers would suss it pretty quick.
This became part of flat Earth in some respect, because people started to postulate early on that the astronauts were under some sort of hypnotism, mind control. And in this respect, they did very much audition the people who went on the show for their gullibility level. You know, they were scrutinized and assessed for how suggestible they were, in the same way that Darren Brown does. He does pretty much exactly the same thing. Huge amounts of research prior to even meeting the person that thinks they're meeting him for the first time. And he's already done 6 months of research in them and been following around and setting them up and planting subliminals and all that kind of stuff. Well, they went to a similar sort of extent for Space Cadets. I'll just read out the first paragraph, actually, from this. It's the Guardian article. In December 2005, a group of outgoing 20-somethings were gathered in front of cameras on a remote airstrip. They had signed up for a reality TV series called, quote, Thrill Seekers, and after 5 months of auditions, they were about to find out the exact premise of the show. The host, Johnny Vaughan, told the excited gang, quote, "You're about to become the very first televised British space tourists," end quote. They started screaming, jumping up and down, and hugging each other. They were going into actual space, exclamation mark. So that's just the first part of the Guardian article about the TV series. But yeah, like I say, they were heavily screened, months and months of auditioning, screening for their gullibility and suggestibility. And once they got the most gullible, most suggestible, and still reasonably pretty for television presentation people that they could find, they bundled them into a simulator with the sound all crackling and broken, and told them that they were in space when looking at an IMAX projection screen image of the Earth claimed to be from space, pretty much exactly how we are presented with ISS images, just by pure coincidence.
Even if you put these people in some sort of fake craft and simulated the sounds and what's going on outside the window and all of that, how do you simulate that feeling of movement? They're supposed to be in a rocket going into space. That's what the premise of this is.
Yeah, they meddle with your balance. So what they do is they alter your perception of horizontal, presumably inside that monstrosity of a machine that they had. It's creating some sort of false horizon, either with the image that's projected out of the window. I would assume that would be the most obvious way to do it, because that's what you would expect your horizon to be represented by, what's out of the window. But then they angle the machine at a certain way so that your ears are tricked into thinking that you've got motion when you haven't. This is a long time ago. I watched a documentary on how those machines work. More recently, somebody actually touched on this that I do watch. That was an aviator talking about how his training simulators work. Exactly the same principle. But in order to make you feel like there's a certain amount of motion, it's carefully calculated in terms of how your ears work, in terms of your balance and tricking it into thinking you've got motion when you haven't. And it's much more convincing if all of the sounds around you are doing what you expect them to do. Like I say, that's why I was like, yeah, I think they will be fooled. You know, this is all going perfectly. Sound stops. I'm like, well, that's it, game over. You know, you need that aspect of it. You need the sound as well as the audio, and as well as your ears being slightly tricked, and a few of the tricks with them shaking you, presumably in the machine, and various other things. But yeah, it is doable in a simulator, and you can get a realistic experience. Have you never been on one of those? They often have them at fairgrounds.
Not like that, no.
Or maybe it's just.
But, I mean, I understand the shaking and all of that. It's just that the supposed quote unquote G forces that you would feel. I mean, have been like, how do you fake that? You know,
you can only fake it in your own. You can only fake it with your own body weight up to like 1G, as they would call it, because
exactly.
Like Nathan says, they tip the whole unit backwards so that you fall into your chair because it's now pointing up, and you get the feeling that you're accelerating forwards, but actually you're tipping backwards.
Exactly.
Nonsense, I think.
Well, no, it's useful. It's useful for training pilots. That's what it was originally developed for.
No, I get that. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, if you're a person, you think you're in a rocket being sent into space, I think that would be. I don't know. I can't see myself falling for that. That sounds crazy. Even if you shook my chair and showed me pretty pictures outside the window, I don't know.
That's because you're skeptical. They only take people who are like, pretty please let me go to Narnia.
Yeah, Red's rhetoric could get in there, because he'd say, I'd sell me granny for a $5 in the same way that Bill Hicks said, just show me aliens.
I don't think he'd make the cut either, because even though he's not on our side, he's still obviously got a certain amount of critical thinking ability in order to work his way around problems that he's having to overcome from our side of the argument. Well, that sort of person with that level of critical thinking, no way they'd be suggestible enough. Just no way. You know, he's looking at finding out the information from the mathematics, and obviously we can argue all day about how that's not reality, but he's still doing the research, this Red's rhetoric, to come up with a coherent argument to be able to put it across to an audience. Definitely not the right kind of candidate for the right stuff, or whatever it was called.
Everybody they picked would have been somebody who wanted to believe.
Yep. Suggestible.
So someone like Farmer's Boy, he'll believe anything that he's told.
Maybe, I don't know who that is, but...
Because the way I think about it, right? Like, I've been in fast cars, I've been in... I went to Great Adventure a long time ago. I went on this ride called the King the Car, right? And like the first stretch it sends you out. I forget what the stats are, but it's like 100 miles an hour you're doing in like 2 seconds. You feel that. You know that you're that you're moving. Like, there's no way to fake that. What I'm saying is, how do you get? I mean, and if you're in a rocket, it's got to be 10 times worse than that, right? Like, you guys are right. It has to be somebody that's like, oh, please, let me just believe that this is real, because I can't see myself falling for that. That's nonsense.
Me neither.
So you need one of three people. Either someone that's like, you can see the zodiacal lights, or someone that I like to think of myself as a complicated rock. Or what, if I change my pants, I'm still in my pants. You need one of those three.
Again, I don't think Virus would be a good candidate either, because even though he's fighting cognitive pain, the fact that he's having that fight in the first place means he hasn't gone, and then just not given it any thought. You know, I just don't think a lot of the people who are crossing our path would not. I can't think of any of them that would be suitable for this, because they're just not. You know, the fact that they don't want to accept that they've been brainwashed doesn't mean that they're impressionable.
That's a fair point. I get what you're saying.
We've all suffered the same brainwashing, and it's very, very powerful stuff. And as humans or as people, we're generally open to being brainwashed and having suggestions planted in our mind. But by the same token, there is also a certain other group of people that will question certain things and be more than content to have something that they understand and believe in, and then relinquish it at a later date because they've reassessed it and don't believe it anymore. In other words, people who are capable of changing their mind. Well, I think that the suggestibility aspect isn't necessarily critical thought about, is this right or wrong, I must assess it. It's just, I'm going to tell you something else, and it won't even process that it's in contrast with something that you've already held dear. You know, that won't even compute. That's the kind of people they need.
Meekin, are you there?
Yeah.
So that Kevin Conrad that was talking about the space flight that we're now talking about, I said it'll be an east to west or a west to east direction, and he's come back with a 51.6 inclination orbit. Inclination is the angle of the tip of the orbit, isn't it? Like the it's not the angle of the heading; it's the angle of tip, right?
Honestly, I'd have to look at it and read.
I think a 90 degree is where it's totally horizontal, and 51.6 is on a diagonal, so it's gaining elevation at some parts and then coming back down at other parts. So it's going like it's up one side of the earth, down the other side. So it's gaining elevation, then dropping elevation, gaining elevation, and dropping elevation.
No.
So it's that angle
That's
that
wrong.
he's referring to.
No, that's wrong. It's just dropping. It's just dropping all the time when you beg the question with them of orbit. So you're already into there. I won't even say it, Anthony. I'm going to waste my breath.
Go on, Meekin.
Begging the question, orbital inclination measures the tilt of an object's orbit around a celestial body. It is expressed as the angle between a reference plane and the orbital plane or axis of the direction of the orbiting object. So I assume in this case, if the orbit swung between 20 degrees north latitude and 20 degrees south latitude, then its orbital inclination will be 20 degrees. So his is 50 to 50 across it.
And then he says, launching to the northeast relative to Cape Canaveral. Well, I don't know what he's got as northeast. I don't know how he's working that out. So I think he's going to find it's going to be east, and they're making it northeast because everything's east or west.
A bit of feedback from Adam
on the model. What?
Couldn't hear right. I was getting a bit of feedback from Adam. That was all. You want to repeat your last sentence?
Though.
Just repeat your last sentence, Anthony.
He said that it was launching to the northeast relative to Cape Canaveral. I don't know what he's referencing when he says that, whether he's magnetic north or circumdicular north, but ultimately everything on their model's got to go around east to west. And they just try and distort it away from that to make it sound like it's not, but it is. Everything goes east to west or west to east on their model.
They're going to need R for their orbit.
It's going to be interesting to watch though, because you'll have to try and work out how to distinguish the series that they're making, because they're making a program about it or whatever. Like contrast between the TV, the theatrical production of television, compared to what they're trying to present it as real world. It's like spot the. I don't know what it's called, but when you have like an old-fashioned, like old Victorian scene, and a Mondeo drives by in the background, and it's not meant to be there. It's got a name. It's going to be stuff like that you can spot.
Continuity error.
So watch out for Mondeos in the background and stuff.
Is this a new show you're talking about that's coming out or something? Or what are you talking about?
That's what he said. The guy said, I'll read his message. He says, a bit further back. He said there's 4 new, I'll have to find it. Hang on.
While he's looking for that, I'll just explain. We're going to start quizzing each other on why this journey that's about to take place is falling around a presupposed spherical Earth. That would be an orbit. So why is it automatically assumed that the path of this, whatever it may be, is going to be falling around a spherical Earth? Why are we assuming that again? Anybody?
Because they haven't got.
Go on, Anthony.
They're bound to make a TV show out of it, aren't they? But the claim is that tomorrow night, the first all-civilian mission to orbit, 4 regular civilians orbiting the Earth at 357 miles in Crew Dragon. Orbiting the Earth at 357 miles high, that must be. 357 miles high in Crew Dragon. First, we'll call them liars and masons, because that is their only argument.
No, I'm asking why it's assumed that this journey is falling around a presupposed spherical Earth with no R-value measurement. Why is that being presupposed? There's orbits twice in that statement that you made. It said orbits in the first sentence twice.
I see what you mean. Are you meaning they're presupposing an orbit so that you can then make the link between this light in the sky that will be seen and interpret it as a described orbit?
Yeah, we should call it a lap, shouldn't we? Instead of orbit, we should say it's a lap.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You've given the
I
full.
Wouldn't call it either.
Hold on.
Light in the sky.
You've given the other side of a false dichotomy. Fine, Anthony. I know your bag. You like to get into the wrangled angle. Good for you. You've said it must be doing an east to west circuit. Okay, so that's your claim now. Don't know why you've made that. So they can pull that apart, presumably. Ultimately, their claim, though, is stated by way of begging the question with this word, orbit. This word means they are going to go up, and I have just decided, because I'm using this word, that once they go up, they're going to fall in a path around a sphere. Because I say so. Why? Well, because I've said orbit, that's why. So now they are falling around a spherical Earth. Why? Well, because they're orbiting. Why are they orbiting? Because I used that word, orbit, remember? So I'm saying, why is it that we have just decided to accept that when they use this word orbit, that means that suddenly this trajectory is falling around a sphere? Why are we accepting that straight out the door?
Who's accepting that again?
Anthony.
This was the claim. It wasn't. I didn't accept it. It was just what he said.
Yeah, I figured that.
We've got to also believe that it's only going to fall around a sphere for 3 days before splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, I think somewhere near where it took off, near the Florida coast.
That's handy.
Not in the middle of Russia like some of this one, or because it's civilians. They've managed to time their orbital mechanics and collapse of that orbit to come back. Oh.
Wait, so Anthony, what you're talking about is sorry, Adam. What you're talking about is a real. It's like a real show, and it's supposed to be real people being sent into real orbit. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm just reading what Kevin Conrad said in chat. I'm not. That's what I understand it to be. 4 normal dudes paid a lot of money to go into orbit for a few days, and that's the claim.
And
there's going to be
higher than the ISS supposedly.
Apparently so.
Oh, that's cute. Can't wait for that.
Coming soon to a simulator near us.
Yeah, I'm sure. And these are the types of things they hold on to, right? Oh, just you wait. We're gonna prove everything soon. Next TV show.
They're not sounding
As soon
that
as they get to
civilian.
Mars.
The mission dubbed Inspiration 4 will be led by the 38-year-old Isaacman, a billionaire technology entrepreneur and founder of an online payment processing company who is said to have paid SpaceX several $1 million for the flight. The 29-year-old Arcano is a childhood bone cancer survivor who has a titanium rod in her leg, which makes her the first person to fly in space with a prosthesis. Sambrowski, a 42-year-old US Air Force ballistic missile maintenance engineer, and 51-year-old Proctor, a geoscientist, community college professor, who was a NASA astronaut finalist in 2009. They're the first 4 civilians.
Finalist. Wow.
Yeah.
What's the latest craze about putting all these billionaires supposedly in orbit?
Padding out the lie in it.
I mean, what are they? I don't know.
Why don't they put a poor kid in there?
Word.
A what kid in there?
A poor kid.
A poor kid, yeah. Sorry, I thought that was one word. Poor kid.
I'm saying, like, with Branson, Bezos, and this other billionaire, like, what's this is the new thing now? New hotness?
Hey, I tell you what I've noticed about you know the thing that we're not meant to talk about. This begins with C.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that there's like no A-list celebs dying at the minute, but there's an awful lot of B and C list celebs dying?
Even the ones that had it from the beginning, they're still around and kicking. Apparently,
the only one that I remember having it from the beginning was Tom Hanks in Australia, where like in the middle of nowhere, where nobody can reach him.
Can't talk about this.
No.
we didn't say any names.
I don't care.
Yeah, we haven't said it.
Tom Hanks' son is a flat earther.
Wait, hold on. I want to hear more about that, Neil. What do you mean?
I mean, he's got to be, because he broke down something about the unspeakable and how he'll never take the unspeakable. So I'm assuming he's a truther.
Yeah. Does that mean he's a flat earther, though?
Oh, come on, guys.
Why? It's a good correlation.
Okay.
I know plenty of truthers, quote unquote truthers, who won't even approach this. So that doesn't mean anything.
You know why? You know why? Because the majority of flat earthers aren't privy to why the scientific method is valuable and how. Like most people just go, oh, well, you know, these people are saying one thing, but you guys don't actually know the hard to get information of these people. They're saying this over here. All I did was go to the source and go, no science. I'm pretty sure he didn't do that. He just picked a side.
Yeah, there's principles that we apply here in terms of scientific understanding that are universally applicable across many different things that you're going to be subject to in terms of propaganda. But as I say, it's just something that the rules and regulations of where we're broadcasting on won't allow us to be specific in any way, shape or form. So rather than using code words as some people are, or being vague, I'd just rather not talk about it. If we can't talk about it freely here, okay, I get it. We can't talk about it freely here.
Maybe
Agreed.
Maybe we can get Adam to, if he's got time, to give more detail as to Rumpus on Brandon's talking about the sextant. I missed it.
Oh yeah, what would a day be without, you know, conversation about angles?
not wrong. It was a little blurry.
I just want to really mention real quick how we're supposedly so insignificant and we just make no never mind, right? But they have to start getting into the shit that we're talking about, right? Because they have to try to debunk it. I'm sorry, Adam. Go ahead. That was just
that's pretty much it. But in doing so, they do what Eli taped the other night. I can't remember his name. All they do is go into a long-winded description of how a sextant works, and then extrapolate it to a ball, explaining that this measurement they're taking, which is going one way and creating this tangent, is what they're then going to use later and apply it to a ball. But where they apply it, it no longer crosses their tangent or has any relation to the bit where it's going to meet the GP on their ball. On the flat plane, obviously, that's the purpose of putting establishing in that line. So that's kind of what he was doing, and flim-flamming around, giving a lot of not even detail, just what the rumpus is like. Every bit of information is littered with 3 or 4 ad homs or insults. So it was just pretty much that, just describing how it works and how you pre-assume it works if you transpose it onto a ball. So, yeah.
So pretty much the basic central angle, light rays coming in parallel, and the tangent plane on top that's foldable and movable to whenever you do it.
It's like a transformer tangent plane.
More like tense a retard, he doesn't understand it. Here's an angle, you take this measurement here, and just because, and as Adam won't understand, you draw a straight line. It was pretty much like that. So
Yep,
it's hard.
That sounds like Rumpus too.
Rumpus is a liar. Why are you even listening to a liar?
He's an idiot.
It's interesting to giggle at what they come back with, because they don't, like I said, they don't really appear to have any argument other than going into the detail about how a sextant works. And hopefully you nod off after 15 minutes.
So after 10th Man has done this numerous times, that now they feel they need to do this. Why? To try to prove a point?
The only bit I think really was pertinent is he was rambling on going, yeah, but look, 69 miles, nautical miles per degree demonstrates it's on a ball.
It's
funny. It's funny
hold on.
argument.
Let Adam round that out, because that's something you'll hear a lot. Right, 1 degree every 69, therefore on a ball. What, when you assume that 69 is measured from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, so it's just a begging the question fallacy.
Yeah, but it doesn't even happen though. They claim that 1 degree every 69 miles. If you actually get the evidence, you can see that all the stars appear to slow down as they get towards the horizon. That's Mick West's own evidence. So that means that you're not doing 69 miles and getting 1 degree. You've got to go 70 miles and 71 miles and 72 miles the closer to the horizon the stars get, because you've got to travel more distance to cover it, right? Because the angle's getting less. But they ignore that. So they just make the claim anyway because it happens on their model. But in real world, it doesn't even happen. So the claim fails before you even get to why does that happen? Well, it doesn't happen. It fails straight away.
The other, I just remembered another point that he brushed over and when addressed wouldn't go back to. He cites when he's talking about taking these measurements, referring to the almanacs and the charts to take into account refraction, and he boldly asserts how you have to take account refraction into account. This is the bit I picked him up on. But then when I asked him about his horizon and how he repositions it, he applies 7/6R refraction to reposition his horizon, but all of the tables are just having standard refraction. So just, adjustments for temperature and the lights to say how much variance.
Be careful. Standard refraction is 7/6.
Sorry. No, just refraction.
Yeah. They conflate between
light
the two terms.
deviating from straight, huh?
Yeah, caused by variances in the conditions, humidity and temperature. That's what it corrects for. What it doesn't do in that is have any 7/6R curvature that you have to move it for. It doesn't in that. It's just refractive effects based on the conditions that it's accounting for.
Did anyone hold them to the operation of a sextant, that it only can measure angles?
You can't hold. You can put the question, but he's never going to respond, is he? He just goes into rhetoric. But yeah, that was. This is the point, because we started out with it was going to, because apparently I'm a retard that doesn't understand how a sextant works. So apparently, in his hour and a half waffle, he was going to address that point of why you 10th man, me and Nathan, everybody, doesn't understand how a sextant works. So that was, I said, okay, then please explain to us how we don't understand. All he then went on to do was explain our understanding of how a sextant works. Waffled in with, like I say, those bait and switches with refraction and a few other bits, but they don't have an argument. They've not. I see that in that hour and a half, he did not present why we don't understand it or why our understanding of it is incorrect or anything. The only other point that was put to him was that he waffled and moved straight over was, Rumpus, are you claiming that the dip angle is to account for Earth curve? Which he waffled around a bit, but it just demonstrates, like I said, they haven't got an argument for us to address.
The dip angle for Earth curve, dipping, that's only your elevation where you're taking the measurement. Let's establish the credulity of this. Was it the rumpus? Let's see what else he said. Air is not the atmosphere. You don't have to be conscious to make an observation. You don't need to have a cause to establish a cause and effect relationship. The second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth. There's no such thing as natural laws. You just made that up. Pendulums go around in a figure 8. Measuring things is not math. Gases effectively have little springs on them, pulling them towards the Earth. The lens of the human eye is concave, and gases are solids.
What an idiot.
Oh my god. Those quotes back to back. Holy shit. You gotta be kidding me. Rumpy. What's going on there, buddy? You don't need a cause to establish a cause and effect relationship. Oh, sorry.
That's the rumpus for you.
And then we're going to listen to him. We're going to give him a platform to talk about Sextant. Are you sure?
No. He's banned.
Well, he's not banned from other shows.
Well, it's not so much that. We were just, not specifically Rumpus, Eli on was it Saturday night as well? Well, were you there, John, weren't you? Say flashbacks, drunken flashbacks coming back.
What?
Again,
the brouhaha from Saturday night.
Yeah. But the reason I was engaging there was just to try and see if they have anything, if they've got anything, if they can even argue why it's valid on their model, and they don't. There's very little there, like I said, other than just going into and just reciting like a wiki page, or an instruction manual for a sextant. More. That's all they do.
And their Mickey Mouse drawings that they just make up. Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy, he didn't even understand what the purpose of the sextant was.
John,
fucking close.
Rumpus did that again last night, right? You know how, who was it, Phil on Saturday, wouldn't start his diagram at 12 o'clock. Yeah, the Rumpus won't do it either. None of them will. Keep asking them that, to put the man on the top of their ball, not at some jaunty angle at like 2:15 or something, yeah? And they don't, because they like to mix the lines up to try and confuse it, so you can't see how obviously the sextant creates a straight line across the top. So they like to, or then conflate it and mix it so that the sextant suddenly isn't straight and parallel, even to the top of the ball. It's pointing down to the horizon. That's why they won't put the men on the top of the ball.
What's their homoerotic obsession with taking the zenith from the observer's position above his head? What's that for?
It's the only way they can acquire a horizontal anything. And I recently heard George Netanyahu saying that even then, that horizontal line that they're acquiring by way of zenith at their position is only horizontal at a single point.
Uh-oh.
Well, what's it for anyway? That I understand what you just said, but what's that for in the? Where's the triangle going? Is the triangle going from fairy tale point in your zenith down
No.
to what?
Yes.
The horizon? What's that for?
It's going to the astronomical horizon. Is that what it's called? It's just going straight off into space.
Yeah, it's going straight off into space, but no. So what they're doing is they're drawing a zenith, right? So you've got a line down towards you. Then you've got your angle off to the star. And then the straight line is up in the air. And that's how you get an upside down triangle with you meeting at the point of
The
it.
angle's off to the star. No. No. They're taking from the center of the earth, which they don't know where that is, by the way. They need R for that. So they have a line going from the center of the earth for some reason. I have no idea. Up through their position, straight up 90 degrees. Okay. What's next?
Then they draw an angle to the star for their triangulation. The bottom of the star will be at the top of that triangle.
Somebody's gonna have to depict that, because we did that with Larry the other day, didn't we?
Let's just cut to the chase, right?
Did
They
you
haven't
see
got a
the
straight
diagram?
line. They haven't got a straight line to the GP of the star, and that's how the sextant works.
But just look at the video I posted, or if you did the video, sorry, with Phil, he drew all the lines right there.
Which video?
All right, give me a second. I'll post it in Master B.
Eli, you'll have a better memory of this than me, but wasn't that the point where he was losing it? Because I was asking him to draw the lines to the star, the one from the observer and the one.
Yes.
And he had to put two different stars on the board and draw two different lines to them. One of them was bent even because in his diagram he couldn't draw. He admitted his whiteboard would have to be 8,000 miles wide to put the star on in a position that the angles would be virtually identical. So when he's doing the geometry on the board, it's false. It's a fib what he's doing. He's not actually representing the geometry he's purporting he's measuring, even, because it doesn't fit.
Well, he presented a paradox, because what happened was he said, okay, here's the star right here, but I'm taking the angle from over here because the light from the star comes in parallel. However, it's refracted, so it looks like it's over there. That's basically what he was saying.
No, that's not how a sextant works. So it's dealing in pure geometry, measuring straight lines and angles. It's got absolutely nothing to do with refraction of any kind. Purely geometric measurements. Straight lines and angles.
How can you
I
have
posted a
anything
screenshot.
not to do with refraction? Isn't everything refracting always, all
Yes.
the time?
Yeah,
That's
but
correct.
that one, even if they're inputting refraction calculated, those are celestial refraction, right? Correct?
No.
Yeah.
The straight line that they're going to draw out into space, that straight line to the horizon, which is what you're actually using on the sextant, for them, is applicable with 7/6 of the radius according to their Black Swan rebuttal.
No, in the nautical almanac, those are their refraction values. Those are celestial refraction.
Oh, you talk about the stars. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not going to get below 15 degrees or whatever it is, so you don't have to deal with the celestial refraction that they're detailing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, do you see the diagram that he drew? It's not me saying it. Look, look at it. Look what he tried to
That
do.
who drew? And where is it? Put it in main
Phil
chat.
drew, and it's in Master B.
that Dr. Phil. All right.
Nah, that's fallacy guy. That's fallacy.
Bob. My bad, Bob.
Oh my God. You guys got to start paying attention to detail.
Just before you start launching into how scary his eyes are, just leave it out immediately.
I got to go to Master B, right?
Just want you to confirm that you won't spend 5 minutes telling us how scary his eyes are, how creepy he looks. I just don't want any of that, which is what has happened every single time.
No, I'm not doing that.
Did everyone else hear that? Nobody responded.
Yeah, I'm not going into how flat his head is. Yeah, I
too
was
scared to
there.
look.
You see the back of his head? It looks like, I don't know, when he was a kid, his mother hit him head.
Oh my God! It's not limited to creepy eyes. It's also how flat the back of his head is, whether or not he was dropped as a child. Just leave it all out, please. I beg of you.
Nice one, Kiwi.
I had to say it since you brought it up. So I'm looking at this drawing. Number one, I can't see the damn drawing. I was there anyway.
I didn't bring it up. Every time Bob comes up, you guys bring it up and I have to rein it in. Now, yeah, admittedly, in this case, I preemptively did it, but not because it's me bringing it up. Don't spin that. That's totally unfair.
See, but the question is, would we be talking about it if you didn't bring it up, though?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I know damn well you would have done it. He did immediately afterwards.
I thought it was relevant to the conversation because his head makes weird angles, but all right, whatever.
Are you guys doing this deliberately so it drags out this conversation about the very thing I'm trying not to have a conversation about? Is this intentional?
4 more hours.
Okay, fine, I give in. 4 more hours on Bob's creepy eyes and the back of his flat head that he was dropped on.
Don't forget to minus dip.
So I was sitting in there. I was waiting for a pizza. You guys should have stayed after Ballbusters. It was a brouhaha for like 3.5 hours after that, but I digress. So I come back. I trying to eat my pizza, trying to enjoy it, right? So I'm listening to this numpty dipshit and his friggin' Mickey Mouse drawing on his homoerotic tapping on the whiteboard shit. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I got the impression that he didn't have a clue what the purpose of the sextant was. So after about an hour, I said, "Hey, Bob, what's the purpose of the sextant?" He didn't know.
What did he answer? What did he actually say?
He said, "Angles."
Angles, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it does. That's not its purpose. What's its purpose?
Isn't it to work out where you are on the plane?
Yeah, to triangulate your position. Yes.
Well, but he said, it has nothing to do with triangulation, is what he said.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with triangles. That's correct. Yeah, he did say that.
Sorry. Hold on. Let me get it straight. Hold on. He just told you it was for measuring angles, but then he told you it wasn't anything to do with triangulation. Is that what you just said?
It wasn't anything to do with. Go ahead, Eli.
It wasn't anything to do with triangles. You having a laugh?
Yep. That's what he said.
It doesn't use triangulation.
Basically, he was saying you take a measurement to a star, calculate exactly the angle, and then do nothing with it. Was the only...
and just hang out and have a beer afterwards? Like,
yeah.
What? What's wrong with this guy?
I got it on. Didn't you hear the audio?
Send it me. Sorry, my bad.
It's got some strong language in it.
I don't care. We're in the after show now. That's fine.
All right. Hold on a second. You want it in Master B or
wherever you like?
Ballbusters.
Ballbusters. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get to hear this by the sounds of things. Excellent stuff.
Yes.
Great. Yep. Great.
I'd like to, Tony, are you there? Just for legal reasons. I just like to
go
point
on.
out I was very drunk and I'd had a lot of whiskey after a long bull busters, and it was probably 1:30 in the morning. Like, just there'll be a lot of
Oh,
sharing.
see, that's the part. That's the part I missed. I didn't know. I didn't know it was 1 in the morning. Also, I was like, Adam, please let me just get like 1 minute of him saying anything, just anything.
I didn't know you was there wanting to get some, like, you'd set a trap or something. I didn't know what you was. I was a little bit late, mate, so I wasn't able to focus too much other than the waffle he was on.
No, I don't think it's
Fair
like
enough.
that. I think it's the old QE adage that just let them open their mouths.
No, yeah, because I was trying. As soon as he said, "Can I share my screen?" I said, "Yo, everyone, let him go through this because I need to screen grab this." And then that didn't happen.
It was so boring, though, Eli. You couldn't keep just sitting there. I tried, but even John gave up and butted in. What are you going on about? Do you know what I mean?
We've got it. Let's have a listen. Everyone ready?
Warning. Strong language afoot. Bob the Pseudoscience Fallacy Quanumbrum Guy, September 11th, 2021. Science vs. Pseudoscience Discord, Ballbusters VC. Concluding his hour presentation on the Sextant. Hey, Bob. Hey, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, you're gonna need R,
Yes,
Bob.
sir. Dr. Bob, you're on mute. Hey, retard. Look here. I just muted your dumbass. You are having a discussion with Adam. You do not mute him, retard. Do you understand me? He has questions for you. Answer them like a fucking grown-up. You understand me? Take him off mute, or you're
He's not
done.
on mute. He's not on mute.
Now.
But if you'd like me to stop now, I'm more than welcome to.
I want you to stop.
I don't have a problem with that.
I want you to stop right here with your clusterfuck presentation, and I'm going to rip up here in a few minutes and let Adam ask his questions. Okay? Thanks.
It might be a Discord issue, though.
It's not. It's a fucking retard issue, and we're looking at it.
I've been put on mute.
Really?
Bob, can you hear me?
Because I could hear you.
He's muted me.
Answer. Bob, can you
What?
hear Adam?
Yeah.
Can you please?
Can you hear me, Bob? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you please answer him?
Hello, Bob.
All right, Adam. What's your question related to this?
It's related to what you rubbed off. We yet to progress on to this point. You did a lovely demonstration, and I asked you to point out the triangulation point, and we accept that it would require a very big whiteboard.
What triangulation point?
Of your star.
There's no triangulation point to the star.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
What?
Are you
what
fucking high,
triangulation
Bob?
point are you talking about?
Are you
What
fucking
are you
high,
measuring?
Bob?
Triangulation
Bob,
point here.
Bob, are you fucking
That's my
high?
point, you mong.
You
I was about
dumbass.
to give
You
that
dumbass.
point.
Hold on, Adam. You dumbass cracker, Bob. What is the purpose for
Now,
the fucking
Adam, where do you
sextant?
think a triangulation point should
You
be?
fucking moron. What is the purpose of the sextant?
To measure this angle right here.
To triangulate your position, you dumb fuck. Oh my God, you need to be
Triangulate how?
institutionalized. You're a fucking moron.
Triangulate how?
You're a fucking moron.
Triangulate how?
You're a fucking moron.
Triangulate? How are you?
Oh my God, you don't
Go
even
right
know
ahead
what
and
the
tell me where
purpose of a
triangulation is,
All
Q8.
right, you're fucking done. Shut the fuck up.
Tell me where the triangulation is.
You
Q8.
fucking moron don't even know what the purpose of the sextant is, and you're giving a class to us on the fucking sextant. Well, folks, so we have this scary, delusional, clinical level, Dunning-Kruger numpty dipshit of epic proportions who comes into the server pompously asking if he could educate us on the sextant. Spends nearly an hour on the whiteboard with his drunken Mr. Magoo train wreck paint-by-the-numbers drawings, lecturing 30-some people on a piece of equipment that he doesn't even know what its purpose is. I don't have to market this. It sells itself. God help us.
Yeah, it's fairly typical, and your outrage I completely agree with. Because, yeah, that is fairly standard stuff. Tell you that you don't understand something that you understand inside out and back to front, only to give you a hotchpotch rendition of what they think it is, and it's completely wrong. You ask him to define what the tool actually does, and he doesn't know. What an outrage. You don't know what the tool does, but you're going to spend hours telling us. Yeah, we know how it works. You don't, clearly. With your hodgepodge diagram, and your curved lines, and your measuring angles, you don't have any straight lines on a sphere for a start. It's all refracted always. This tool doesn't work on a globe.
It was
Look,
funny.
look at
Nathan,
he's another one that does. Hold on a second. Look at his drawing. Somebody, can you pull up his drawing once? I'm gonna have to save it and send it to you. 1 second. Let me copy it and I'll send it to you. I'll send it in Ball Busters.
Okay.
Hold on a second, Adam.
I think he's sending it as
It
well.
must be, John.
Which one do you want? Him at his whiteboard with this screen cap from a phone. It's a bit tiny.
I'll give it to you. I'll give a better one to you. 1 second.
Perfect.
Ball Busters. Yeah, it's coming at you. And here's another one. I think they're all of them are getting this 90 degrees from Bob above his head, the zenith. Check it out. It goes right down to the center of the earth. What the hell is that for? Somebody tell me that.
What he's done on the diagram, though, because he wouldn't put the man at the top of the picture. And if you look, Rumpus did the same last night. His horizon line that he draws isn't even on a ball. It isn't a straight line. It's a dipping down line. I mean, that's a. Well, you can see on the diagram the two stars are in different positions, even though apparently that's measuring the same thing. Nathan. So you see the observer's top of his line, that's where his star is, and the other star that you're going to take the GP to is the same star apparently in his maths. Just the shocking bit on his diagram.
So you're telling me where he's got this quasi 90 degrees to the intersecting line that he's got drawn at his zenith that QE's asking what the purpose of it is. You're saying that that line going out to the right is the same star as the right that's got a reciprocating zenith angle?
Yeah.
It's the same. I can't quite believe my ears.
Just let me screen share. I'll
Remember, nobody can see that. I'm getting some
you're
echo,
in.
Adam.
Yeah. I'm off.
Yeah, remember, no one can see that in Discord.
Why does he got a line going from the star to the center of the earth? What the fuck?
I posted in main chat the diagrams.
Thanks. Hopefully you can follow along in Discord now what we're watching. We're looking at him smoking his pen.
Yep.
Yep, good. So this is two different star positions, Adam. But they're actually the same star. And he's just using the presumably he's at this point in this video saying, oh, the light comes in parallel, right?
Yeah, this is exactly it. So I've gone to paint. It's easier just to do. Oh, it's beautiful. So yeah, what he's proposing here in his diagram is there's the star and there's the star. So in his diagram, the observer is taking this angle, which he's generated from his bendy horizontal. And then in his diagram, look, the star suddenly is here to create the GP. I said to do it, he admitted that the star would have to be over here, about 8,000 miles. His whiteboard would need to be for it to have any bearing in representative of his reality. So you can see he approximates these as the same angle, assuming these meet off in infinity. But in reality, in his diagram, you can see the actual positions that he places the stars to make sure that the observation angle here and at the center of the Earth is the same, but the fudge is the star's not in the same position. That makes sense?
Yep. I'll say it again, as I've said it before. When is this actually done by a mariner?
Never.
What Bob is showing on this depiction is never actually put into practice, ever.
Nathan, I got a slide in Master B.
Never put into practice. This is a Mickey Mouse drawing. What is the purpose of this drawing?
Deception.
What are you trying? Go ahead, 10.
No, it's deception. Everything he's doing there happens on the surface because that's where you get the angle. And what they do with a two-dimensional circle is say, how can we use how the sextant actually works on the flat plane and trick people that it works on a curved surface? Oh, we can get a central angle. So let's say everything is derived from the center of the Earth. That's all they've done here.
I've got that diagram up on screen now as you were talking about it. Do you want me to move on to the next one?
No, actually go to the last one, which will is the article.
Yeah, the optical instrument called sextants have been used as navigation aids for centuries, especially by, do you want to carry on? Seafarers.
Yeah, seafarers. Yeah, just keep reading to the green highlight.
Of an eyepiece and an angular scale called arc, fitted with an arm to make degrees. By manipulating the parts, a user can measure the angular distance between two celestial bodies, usually Earth and either the Sun or Moon. The observer can thereby calculate his or her position of latitude by using trigonometric operation known as triangulation.
Duh.
Yeah, it's a horrifying situation where someone who spent an hour doing a presentation tells you that a sextant isn't being used for triangulation and doesn't need triangles. It's pathetic.
This reminds me of Diane Abbott, the MP for Labour, I think she is. When she was asking, she gave a presentation about how Labour were going to increase the police service force, and by doing certain things, they were going to make a better service for people. And somebody said to her something along the lines of, how many more police officers will that budget of 15 million get you, or something like that? It was a basic maths issue, right? And she couldn't do the arithmetic in her head on the spot under pressure. So obviously she got the moccasin of the mathematical one. But she makes these mistakes all the time. And this is what this reminds me of. Someone that continuously makes mistakes, and that's what he's doing.
Well, he doesn't even know what he's doing. Like QE said, he's doing a grease board presentation on how sextant works, and he doesn't even know why he's using the sextant. They're all brainwashed because it's full of paradox. They've got the sextant that actually works, and they've shown you through Muppet Vision drawings that it works on a curved surface. It dies right there because sextant can't work without a straight baseline for triangulation from the GP of the star. It's just
What's
so
the
simple.
purpose of the sextant, tough man? Oh, just measuring this angle right here.
The angle is between 0 and 90.
And then later on, what triangulation?
Did he at any one time mention the
people are nuts.
American Practical Navigator? Did he do that one, or was that somebody else?
No.
Yeah, that must have been Ruhif, I think, according to Brian. See, Nathaniel Bowditch put out a book called the American Practical Navigator, and everybody has it. It really is one of their best works on this. And in there, you find all the paradox. I found them, and it's just nice to see them, trip up. But we had to get the sextant argument out there to see what the responses would be. Now we see it's silly and nothing. And then I think Ruhif told Brian, yeah, every ship has the American Practical Navigator. Well, great. Why don't we cite it? Nathan, I'm going to put up 2 slides in a second.
Okay. Elevator music. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. You there yet?
Have you got it in yet?
Yeah, I've got the first and second up there. Tell me when you got it.
Okay, got the first one up. So,
okay, the method of Saint Hilaire on the calculated altitude.
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. The foregoing parts of this work have been set forth that when the purpose of navigators to find the latitude the observed celestial body should be situated on or near the meridian, or at least not remote from it, and that it must apply different rules according to the body is on or near or more remote from the meridian. And again, when his purpose is to find the longitude, the observed celestial body should be situated on or near or at least not remote from the prime vertical, that he must then apply another set of rules. Here we go. It is also explained in Article 363 that a navigator who has measured the altitude of a celestial body at a known instant of time has really located his geographical position on the circumference of a circle whose position, circumference of a circle whose radius is equal to the zenith distance, parentheses, 90 degrees altitude, and whose center is the geographical position of the celestial body, or that point on the Earth's surface which falls vertically under the observed body at an instant of observation. Basically, what he's talking about here is a circle of equal altitude. And he's showing how the 90-degree triangulation is related to it. He's saying that it's going to be vertically over that spot of the Earth at an instant while using the sextant. It has been pointed out, as I continue, that practical needs are concerned only with, in fact, go to the next slide because I got that in full. Tell me when you're there.
I'm there.
It has been pointed out that practical needs are concerned only with that portion of the circumference of the circle of position, which lies in the vicinity of the estimated position of the ship. And having seen how this portion may be determined and laid down by methods depending upon the computation of latitudes and longitudes, we proceed to extend our view to the accomplishment of this purpose by a method which is now rapidly growing in favor among practical navigators, because it brings the whole of astronomical navigation under a single rule by rendering the course of procedure the same, whatever the situation in the heavens of the observed body be, provided only that the conditions admit of accurate measurement of its altitude. So basically, Nathaniel Bowditch here is saying that when a star is over a position on the Earth, you have the GP, you go to either the nautical almanac or the air almanac, and you use that with your angle that you got with the sextant, using time, the prime meridian, Greenwich, England, and you figure out through triangulation where you are on that circumference of the circle of equal altitude, where you are, no matter on wherever you are on that circle, it's the same angle in degrees. That's why you take a second sighting, so you get a fix. And the radius, he mentions the radius, if you go to the previous slide, and the zenith distance, and he brings in 90 degrees. Tell me, how can you read this book and not know the sextant measures angles with a flat radius line to a GP to you? How's that possible?
He didn't read it, he didn't know. He just concerned himself with how he could translate what we had said into a spherical understanding. Oh, you're not talking about Bob the Science Guy anymore? This guy just knew that the Earth was flat and wrote it down, how it worked.
But in the same book, he's pushing the globe. This is why it's a paradox. This is, they'll do this in all, about just a drawing that Bob did on the grace board. It's the same thing. He's trying to describe how sextant works. He can't do it on the surface that's curved, so he takes it to that center of the Earth, which nobody goes to, which nobody's ever done. But that's the only place you're going to get a corner which gets a vertex. But we get that on the surface because the sextant works, which means the Earth is flat.
Good stuff. Thanks, 10th.
And with that,
no, I'm going to round out.
Normally he waits to a magic moment.
I said 4 more hours before, man. What are you doing?
4 more minutes.
No, you just keep banging heads. See, I left Ballbusters to listen to the re-up of the Nathan Oakley Flat Earth Debate Show, and it seems like I missed some magic stuff in Ballbusters.
It went on for, let's see, we got off at 4 or 5, another 3 hours after that.
Is it like the Ballbusters after show, if you will?
Yes.
Sounds like I missed a real party. An hour of Bob the Science Guy talking about something he didn't understand. Wow.
No, 3 hours of drunken Adam I'm talking about.
I've dealt with that before. I've experienced that pleasure once or twice.
So no one in Discord?
Yeah,
I want to know when we take the victory lap.
We already did.
That's a personal thing, though.
This is us taking the victory lap.
Don't start, Nathan.
I honestly, I think the question now needs to be, instead of any of the specific ones to the topic, like how do you have gas pressure at a container, the one housekeeping question that we really need to ask is, why do we need to become physics experts in every single topic before you accept that your model doesn't work when we only need one?
I'll answer that.
I'll
answer that because you buy into the false dichotomy and begging the question fallacy in almost every instance and find yourself explaining something that you haven't made any claims for because you've fallen into their trap of forcing you into false dichotomy. For example, somebody saying that they're going to launch something up into the sky. By way of an orbit, they beg the question and lay the foundation for their model and assumption. You ignore the begging the question fallacy and start explaining how it's always going to go east to west or west to east. So you've offered up a nice false dichotomy. Well, suddenly you've got to become an expert in that rocket, haven't you? Why? Well, because you fell into the trap of a false dichotomy, Anthony.
Yeah, but that's not really answering my question.
Okay, when somebody says, well, how does it work for you? I laugh at them. So I don't care. I'm not making a claim about it.
Yeah.
He is right.
They do that. But it still doesn't really answer the question. The question I asked was, why do we have to become experts in every single aspect of physics?
You don't.
Yeah, before they accept that their model is broke with just one.
You see. So your prerequisite is that they accept at the end, even if you became an expert, even if you got full-on education and you were qualified in it, do you think that would mean that they would accept what you said? Because that would mean that every single thing that Dr. John said would be automatically accepted when it came to that particular field, wouldn't it? Oh, no, it's not, is it? It doesn't matter that he's got a doctorate or whether he's got a PhD. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Makes no difference to them. So your expertise level makes absolutely no difference to the prerequisite that they must accept and understand at the end of that process, because that's never going to happen, Anthony, regardless of your expertise level that you feel you need to acquire at the end of this. You don't.
No, I do agree with that. I get that point. But again, my point still is, why do we have to have an outstanding expertise in every single aspect to demonstrate that their model is wrong just once before they accept that their model's wrong? In other words, why can't they accept that gravity is not a force? That gas pressure, why can't they accept that?
That's a different
here's
question.
the thing. You're assuming that they haven't accepted the facts or don't know the truth. When it actually they're wasting your time. So now Anthony goes to 4 years of college just to become an expert in one particular field, and then they give you the middle finger and run off going, "Ha, Earth's a globe. You just wasted your time."
Well, they just ask you the same question again.
Because if they're lying, they've already accepted it and have made the decision to be a liar about it. I mean, That's what it is, right?
Well,
Look
well
at
Anthony actually displayed the very characteristics he's questioning. So he asked a question, I answered him 3 times, no less. And what did he do? He repeated the question 3 times, didn't he?
Yep.
Only because my question wasn't answered.
So in other words, it was answered. It just wasn't answered to your satisfaction. So therein lies your answer, Anthony.
You're not listening, Nathan.
I don't understand, right? Tell me I don't understand, Anthony.
Yeah, you just don't understand.
I knew it.
It is true, though. That is what, no matter what evidence that they get shown that their argument fails, they think that they've got still 99 other ones that they can use, and they ignore the fact that one that has just been presented that does destroy their model. They ignore that as if the other 99 substitute, and it's like, no, it's the opposite way around.
Well, then
Go ahead.
The real question is, why do we have to become an expert in these fields?
They ignore the black swan, then there's no hope. They don't want to know.
I think there's just levels to that response. That's why you can't get like a coherent response to that, right? Because you got levels to this shit. There are those that I'm sure have accepted it, and like I said before, decided to no, I'm just going to lie, and because it just has to be a globe, so I just got to prove these guys wrong, right? And then there are even their own experts, right? Remember the MIT guy? The gas will fill the available volume, right? So he knows how gas works on a reality level, but then he probably walks outside and thinks there's a vacuum above his head, right? So he's got to accept both of them, right?
He's probably never thought about it in that context. I mean,
maybe he hasn't.
That's more like it's never even crossed his mind. Chocolate.
Yeah, I
you don't know that.
I put a link in the war room last night for you guys to consider, and it was about a Jenga tower, and when you take all the building blocks out, and eventually it falls over. The guy says, "Does it fall over or does it fall down?" And the girl that's looking at it saying it falls over, and he says, "Does it always fall over?" And she went, "Yes." He said, "Does it ever fall down?" And she went, "No, because there's stuff in the way." And he says, "So why is it that when blah, blah, blah," and he started talking about 9/11 and the structural support on the side of the tower getting damaged, why didn't that tower fall over rather than fall down? And then she says, "I didn't ever think of it in that context." And it's like that moment, he just got it with her for the purpose of the clip, but it takes one of those moments for someone to go, "Do you know, I never thought about it from that perspective. Now it makes total sense." It's like no matter what angle that you give to them, no matter what explanation or what evidence you give them, they just completely ignore the perspective always, and they'll just go, "Nah, refraction, let's walk back, gravity or whatever." So
well, see, you may get them the first day, then the next day they'll come, and they'll sense that coming, and they won't allow you to make that point because they don't want to have to recognize, okay, I see the parallel you made there. We've seen it happen before.
And with that, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.